Chapter 998. In front of Mount Sanwei, a phoenix descended from the sky. From the phoenix flames, a figure in red walked out. He had the same appearance but a completely different aura. Seeing the person, Dong Yu and Xia Ji were shocked. They couldn't help but look at the man beside them in disbelief. "Come back, phoenix body." Ning Chen looked at the figure in red and said. As soon as he finished speaking, the phoenix flames in the sky stirred. Endless flames rose and merged with the two bodies. "Dong Yu, Xia Ji, take me to see King Wan." Ning Chen looked at the two girls beside him and said. Dong Yu and Xia Ji recovered from their shock. They nodded with complicated expressions and turned to walk towards Mount Sanwei. Ning Chen stepped forward to catch up. After a few steps, his figure faded and disappeared. In the deepest part of the Luan race's secret territory, Qingyu Abyss. Green starlight filled the entire abyss. On a high platform, the king of the Luan race stood quietly. His body was surrounded by mist and his powerful aura shook the heavens. Outside the Qingyu Abyss, 3 people walked over. The young man in the middle was dressed in plain clothes that fluttered in the wind. His snow-white hair was stained with the aura of time. Seeing the approaching figure, King Wan squinted his eyes. What a powerful force! Compared to the first time he came to see her, the current him revealed the true aura of a powerful cultivator. "Greetings, Senior King Wan." Ning Chen stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Compared to the first time we met, you are different," King Wan said seriously. Ning Chen didn't say anything. He raised his right hand and suddenly, an unusually powerful force spread out. Red flames spread. The divine flames of the phoenix burned the world. Phoenix flames? King Wan was shocked. What was going on? Before he could ask, the phoenix flames in the Qingyu Abyss soared into the sky. In the flames, the phoenix spread its wings. Endless phoenix origin power was released. A huge phoenix shadow covered the sky and the sun. It was shocking. Amidst the sea of flames, the white-haired silhouette stood there quietly. The aura of a peerless master was undeniable. Even though he had yet to enter the mortal world, even the Luan king felt a sense of danger. King Wan's expression froze. So he was a phoenix. However, his original form was a human. Phoenixes were noble by nature. Why would they give their inheritance to a human? A moment later, in the Qingyu Abyss, the phoenix fire that filled the sky quickly converged and disappeared into the body of the white-clothed figure. In the void, the phoenix shadow disappeared, and its aura was restrained. Within the floating mist, King Wan gradually regained his composure, and his gaze turned gentle. "What do you want to know?" King Wan asked. "Are there still phoenixes in this world?" Ning Chen asked seriously. "No." King Wan shook his head. "Phoenixes are immortal and indestructible. Why did they disappear?" Ning Chen's expression darkened. "There is no such thing as absolute immortality in this world. Just like the phoenix that gave its origin to you, although it can't be considered to have fallen, the way it exists has changed." King Wan said calmly. "Does Senior Luan mean that there is someone similar to me in this world?" Ning Chen asked. "Whether there is or not, I am not sure. However, the real phoenix has indeed completely disappeared. Perhaps after a long time, a phoenix will appear in this world again. However, the phoenix needs time to be reborn. This time may be 1,000 years, or it may be 10,000 years. Do you understand what I mean?" King Wan said seriously. Hearing this, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. After a long time he continued, "The spiritual energy in this world is very dense. The power of the phoenix should be extremely strong. Why did it wither to this extent?" The ancient war of gods and demons. King Wan's eyes revealed a trace of nostalgia. He said, "In the ancient times, before the war between the primordial demon realm and the heavens beyond heaven, there was a great war of gods and demons in this realm. The heavenly demon clan and the phoenix clan had different ideologies and a long war broke out. At that time, all the clans were involved. The war lasted for almost 100 years. The heavenly demon clan and the phoenix clan both suffered heavy losses. However, no one would have thought that the final deciding factor of the war would be the internal problems of the phoenix clan." Saying this, King Wan walked down from the high platform. He looked at the floating green stars in the sky and sighed softly. Although the Phoenix clan was small in number, each Phoenix had the power to destroy the world. Especially the Lord of the Phoenix. He was the strongest cultivator in the primordial secret realm. Unexpectedly, during the most critical period of the war between the two clans, a traitor appeared in the Phoenix clan. A black phoenix took advantage of the opportunity when the Lord of the Phoenix was fighting against the royal cultivators of the Heavenly Demon clan to launch a sneak attack. The black phoenix severely injured the Lord of the Phoenix. In the end, the Lord of the Phoenix was severely injured and died. A black phoenix? Ning Chen's expression froze. It was hard to believe that there was such an anomaly in the Phoenix clan. That was a variable in the Phoenix clan. When he was born, he was divined by the priests of the Phoenix clan. However, the Lord of the Phoenix was merciful and spared the Black Phoenix. Unexpectedly, the Black Phoenix became the source of disaster for the Phoenix clan and led to the extinction of the Phoenix clan. They completely disappeared from this world. King Yuan sighed softly. What happened after that? Ning Chen asked. After that, the Heavenly Demon clan opened the space tunnel between the primordial secret realm and the heavens beyond. That was when the war between the two clans began. I'm sure you know the final result. The Heavenly Demon clan was defeated and the royal family of the Heavenly Demon clan was wiped out. The space tunnel between the two clans was sealed, and the primordial secret realm was greatly damaged. King Yuan said calmly, "What happened to the Black Phoenix?" Ning Chen asked with concern. According to the legends, the Black Phoenix was severely injured by the Lord of the Eastern Celestial World of the Heavens Beyond and almost died. However, no one knows what happened to it. King Yuan replied. Ning Chen's expression turned serious again. If that was the case, then it was really troublesome. The inheritance of the Phoenix clan had been broken. Where was he going to find their secret technique? Senior King Yuan, is there any possibility of the Phoenix clan's secret technique being left behind? Ning Chen looked at the king of the Phoenix clan and asked seriously. Hearing this, King Yuan frowned and said, "You received the inheritance of the Phoenix clan. Don't you know their cultivation technique?" Ning Chen shook his head and said, "The two phoenixes that gave me their inheritance were restricted by the laws of heaven and earth. They were only in the innate realm. When they gave me their origin energy, they didn't leave behind the cultivation technique of the Phoenix clan." King Yuan's eyes narrowed. The innate realm was indeed too weak. For a phoenix to awaken its memories, it had to be at least in the immortal realm, or even the mortal realm. The young man in front of him was a human. It was almost impossible for him to awaken his memories. When the Phoenix clan disappeared, the entire primordial secret realm was in the midst of war. Even if the Phoenix clan left behind their secret technique, it was very likely that it was destroyed in the war. However, there are still two places where it might be possible to find it. King Yuan's tone was uncertain. Which two places? Ning Chen continued to ask. The first is the ancestral land of the Phoenix clan, the Southern Mountain. You possess the origin of the Phoenix clan, so you might be able to discover things that others can't. The other underworld is within the Celestial Devil Imperial clan. Back then, the Phoenix clan was defeated, so some of the Phoenix clan's inheritance might have been obtained by the Celestial Devil Imperial clan. However, this is only my guess. Ning Chen nodded and looked at the king in front of him. He bowed respectfully and said, "Thank you for your guidance, Senior King Yuan. I know what to do now." King Yuan nodded slightly and said, "Mr. Ning, I would like to make a deal with you. What do you think?" Ning Chen's expression turned serious and said, "Senior King Yuan, please speak." Dong Yu and Xia Ji are the two most outstanding juniors of my clan. I would like to gift them to Mr. Ning. King Yuan said seriously. Hearing this, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed and his expression turned serious. On the side, Dong Yu and Xia Ji were shocked. They didn't expect their king to suddenly make such a decision. The Phoenix clan and the Luan clan have always been on good terms. In the ancient times, during the war between the Phoenix clan and the Heavenly Demonic clan, the Luan clan suffered heavy losses. Even today, we still haven't recovered. Mr. Ning has the inheritance of the Phoenix clan, and is no different from the Phoenix clan. Dong Yu and Xia Ji following you isn't a disgrace. In the future, If the Luan clan encounters an unavoidable crisis, I only hope that Mr. Ning can protect us for this sake. King Yuan said calmly. Senior King Yuan, why do you say this? Ning Chen's expression turned serious. You are a king of the mortal realm, and your strength is far above mine. Why do you need to entrust the safety of the Luan clan to an outsider? I am old. King Yuan sighed softly and said, although I have tried my best to hold on these years, time is merciless and I don't have much time left. Mr. Ning, you are different. I can feel the burning life force in your body. One day, you will succeed in your atavism, and your strength will increase by leaps and bounds. At that time, the glory of the Phoenix clan will reappear in your body. Therefore, I hope that you can agree to this deal, or rather my request. Ning Chen was silent. After a long time, he looked at the beautiful king of the Luan clan and said softly, Senior King Yuan, it's not that I want to refuse. However, the future of the Luan clan shouldn't be entrusted to an outsider, and shouldn't be exchanged with the future of the girls. Xie Ji and Dong Yu are talented, and will definitely be able to carry the hope of the Luan clan's revival. In this world, everyone has their own responsibilities. The rise and fall of the Luan clan shouldn't be shouldered by me. Hearing this, King Yuan's eyes darkened. He stared at the young man in front of him. After a long time, he sighed softly and waved his hand. You may leave. Thank you, Senior King Yuan. I will take my leave. Ning Chen bowed respectfully and looked at the two girls beside him. He smiled gently and said, Dong Yu Xiaji, we will meet again if fate wills it. After saying this, Ning Chen didn't say anything else. He turned and walked out of the green rain abyss. King. Seeing the former leave, Xiaji's face flashed with anxiety. King Yuan turned and walked up the platform. After 2 steps, he stopped and said calmly, Now the 100 clans are selecting generals for the war between the 2 realms. My clan also has 2 spots. If you want to go, go. Hearing this, Xiaji's face lit up and she quickly bowed. Thank you, King. Before she finished speaking, Xiaji pulled Dong Yu and hurriedly chased after the figure outside the green rain abyss. Chapter 999. Outside the Qingyu abyss, Ning Chen had just walked out when Summer Solstice's shout came from behind. Young Master Ning, wait for us. Hearing the voice behind him, Ning Chen stopped and looked back at Summer Solstice, who was dragging Dong Yu over. He smiled and said, slow down. You'll be gone if you're any slower. Summer Solstice's tone was dissatisfied. After complaining, she smiled happily again and said, My king has agreed for Dong Yu and me to go to the ancient desolate plain together. We're going the same way again. Ning Chen chuckled and said, What a coincidence. All right, let's go together. Summer Solstice giggled and dragged Dong Yu. As they walked, she said, I won't give way to you in the 100 clans competition. All right. Ning Chen smiled and continued, Let's say goodbye to your mother first and then set off. Okay. Summer Solstice nodded. In front of the small river that ran from east to west, the woman was still busy. When she saw the 3 of them return, a gentle smile appeared on her delicate face. Mother. Summer Solstice trotted forward and hugged the woman's arm. She said sweetly, We're leaving. My king agreed to let Dong Yu and me participate in the selection of the 100 clans. When the selection is over, we'll be back. Don't worry. The woman smiled and said, Go ahead. Be careful on the way. Okay. Summer Solstice nodded vigorously and shook her fist at the 2 people behind her. Her face was full of happy smiles. Dong Yu walked forward and reached out to hold the woman's hand. She said softly, Mother, after we leave, you have to take care of yourself. We'll be back soon. The woman smiled and said, Okay, I'll remember. It's getting late. You should set off early. I'll wait for you at home. Dong Yu nodded reluctantly and looked at Summer Solstice. She said softly, Let's go. Mother, we're leaving. Summer Solstice was a little reluctant, a little excited, and a little confused. She said goodbye to her mother for the last time. Madam, see you later. Ning Chen bowed respectfully and said goodbye. Mr. Ning, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Dong Yu and Summer Solstice along the way. The woman said softly. Madam, don't worry. I will. Ning Chen replied, and then he didn't delay any longer before leaving. Xia Ji and Dong Yu glanced at their mother reluctantly, and immediately followed her. In the small courtyard, the woman stood there quietly, not moving for a long time as she watched the three figures disappear from her field of vision. In front of Mount Sanwei, the void swirled, and three figures walked out. Winter Rain and Summer Solstice both looked back, their eyes flashing with reluctance. "Let's go. Come back early." Ningchen spoke calmly before he strode forward. Dong Yu and Summer Solstice came back to themselves. They looked at each other and quickly followed him. "Young Master Ning, are we going to the ancient desolate plains now?" Summer Solstice asked on the way. "Let's go to Southern Mountain first," Ningchen said softly as he looked ahead. Southern Mountain? Dong Yu was slightly surprised when he heard this, but he didn't say anything. The time of the 100 Clans competition was getting closer and closer. The three of them sped up and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The road ahead was filled with mountains, raging rivers, wild beasts, and countless obstacles. However, for the three of them who were extremely close to the Red Dust Realm, all obstacles were no longer important. Southern Mountain was the legendary Phoenix ancestral grounds. Since the Phoenix clan was destroyed in the ancient times, the entire Phoenix ancestral grounds had become a forgotten part of history for more than 100,000 years. It was no longer as prosperous as it was in the past. In the 100,000 mountains, there were layers of cliffs and dangerous peaks that isolated the mortal world. It was a legendary place that very few people had set foot in for thousands of years. Half a month later, the three figures appeared in the 100,000 mountains. Looking at the lush forest ahead, their expressions froze slightly. Wait a moment. The road ahead was difficult to find. Ningchen's footsteps trembled as he rose into the air and arrived above the forest. His gaze swept across the entire forest before he descended again. "Follow me." Ningchen glanced at the two women behind him and said softly before continuing to rush forward. Dong Yu and Summer Solstice followed and disappeared into the depths of the forest in the blink of an eye. Ancient trees coiled around the mountains and rivers. Wild beasts and fierce beasts ran rampant. There were even fierce beasts that had lived for countless years. Their strength was not inferior to the experts of the 100 Clans. The three of them didn't attract too much attention. As they passed through, their auras were completely restrained. They didn't want to attract unnecessary trouble. After traveling for a few days, they passed through many mountains and valleys. The three of them had searched almost half of the mountain range, but they still couldn't find the legendary Southern Mountain. "Young Master Ning, did we find the wrong place?" After searching for a few days, Summer Solstice was a little impatient, and said with an irritated expression, "No, it should be nearby. There might be an illusion array or something like that. We haven't been able to find it." Ningchen's gaze swept across the surrounding mountains and rivers and his eyes narrowed. It seemed that they couldn't be so careful anymore. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to find the Phoenix ancestral grounds in another half a month. "Step back a little." Ningchen glanced at the two women behind him and said softly. Hearing this, Winter Rain and Summer Solstice immediately took a few steps back and made space. Ningchen pulled out the black saber at his waist. In an instant, an endless fierce aura filled the air. The murderous weapon made from the bones of ancient fierce beasts appeared for the first time. The surrounding area suddenly changed color. An ear-piercing sound of space tearing was heard, and the entire 100,000 mountains shook. Wild bone came out. In the depths of the 100,000 mountains, the overlords of fierce beasts opened their eyes and looked at the white-haired figure not far away. Their eyes were filled with ferocity. "I'm here to look for something. I don't want to have a conflict with you. However, if you insist on fighting, I'll be happy to oblige." Ningchen's gaze swept across the powerful fierce beasts in the depths of the mountains, and said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura around Ningchen's body rose to the extreme. An unusually powerful force rushed into the sky. In the swirling wind and snow, the wild bone's saber radiance soared into the sky and slashed down. In the next moment, an earth-shattering tremor was heard. Wherever the black saber radiance passed, the mountains collapsed. The terrifying power shook the entire 100,000 mountains. One slash shocked the heavens and made all living creatures crawl. After the slash, the wild bone in Ningchen's hand disappeared and returned to its sheath. "Found it. Let's go, Ningchen said before he quickly rushed forward. Behind him, Dongyu and Summer Solstice looked at the mountains in front of them that had been slashed open. They were shocked. They really didn't expect that young Master Ning's attainments in the saber would be so extraordinary. Behind the mountains the three figures passed through. Frightened by the power of the previous slash, all the fierce beasts in the 100,000 mountains chose to remain silent. They were unwilling to face such a terrifying expert. In the deepest part of the 100,000 mountains, in the forbidden area surrounded by mountains, the saber radiance cut through layers of obstacles and revealed the true appearance of the forbidden area. In the mountains in the southern corner, in the legendary Phoenix's ancestral land, there were hundreds of huge sycamore trees towering into the clouds. The oldest one was 30 feet thick and its age was immeasurable. The three figures came and stopped in front of the sycamore trees. Summer Solstice glanced around and looked for a long time. She frowned and said, "There's nothing. The phoenix has disappeared from this world for hundreds of thousands of years. Many people must have come here. If it was so easy to find something, it would have been taken away long ago." Ningchen looked at the sycamore trees that towered into the clouds and answered. "Then how do we find it?" Summer Solstice asked with a troubled expression. "Let me try." Ningchen withdrew his mind and shouted softly. He released all his power. In an instant, the sky was filled with endless phoenix fire, engulfing the entire southern corner mountain. After hundreds of thousands of years, the phoenix fire reappeared in the southern corner mountain. The hundreds of sycamore trees immediately recovered. The king of the 100 trees, who was not afraid of the phoenix fire, seemed to feel a familiar aura from a distant era. The branches and leaves swayed and rustled. "Ha!" Ningchen shouted again. In the burning phoenix fire, the phoenix spread its wings and flew out. The huge shadow of the phoenix shook the sky and covered the sun. It was an ancient legend again. The appearance of the phoenix shocked the entire 100,000 mountains. The fierce beasts trembled violently and roared in a low voice. They were unwilling to submit. However, the pressure that came from the depths of their blood made all resistance pale. The hundreds of beasts prostrated themselves, and their bodies trembled involuntarily. In the flames, the hundreds of divine sycamore trees swayed, even more violently. The king of the trees seemed to have a spirit. They shouted to welcome the return of the phoenix. "Ancestors of the Phoenix clan, I Ningchen need your help." Under the sycamore trees, Ningchen bowed respectfully and said sincerely. As soon as he finished speaking, the surroundings were silent. In the endless flames, there was only the sound of the hundreds of king of the trees swaying. There was no other movement. Ningchen straightened up and looked around. His expression turned solemn. In the flames, the phoenix flapped its wings. The powerful origin of the phoenix filled the 100,000 mountains. All the beasts bowed and did not dare to get up. 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Time passed slowly. Under the sycamore trees, the white-clothed figure still stood quietly and did not leave. Not far away, winter rain and summer solstice waited quietly. They did not dare to make a sound. After waiting for a long time, under the hundreds of king of the sycamore trees, an unusually powerful pressure suddenly rose. The immortal fighting soul from the ancient era appeared again. It was only for a moment, but it was so clear. "Young Phoenix, you're finally here." Among the dozens of fighting souls, an illusory figure gradually appeared. His appearance could not be seen clearly. Time was merciless and had erased too much of his reality. Around him, the dozens of fighting souls of the Phoenix clan bowed to the sovereign in the middle. Then they turned into stars and disappeared again. From the beginning to the end, they did not say a word. "I'm the Phoenix Master." In the flames, the illusory figure looked at the white-clothed figure in front of him and said calmly. When the Phoenix Master appeared, the king of the trees shook violently and bowed to the sovereign of the Phoenix clan. Ningchen looked at the Phoenix Master in front of him and bowed without saying anything. The Phoenix Master glanced at the entire Phoenix ancestral land and sighed softly. "Everything is different now." After sighing, the Phoenix Master looked back at the young junior in front of him and asked, "What do you want?" "The Phoenix clan's secret technique." Ningchen straightened up and looked at the sovereign of the Phoenix clan in front of him. He did not hide anything and said directly, Chapter 1000. In the depths of the 100,000 mountains, in the Phoenix's ancestral land, the Phoenix Master appeared. He was just a remnant soul, but his pressure was unprecedentedly powerful, causing people and gods to fear him. Facing the Emperor of the Phoenixes, Ningchen spoke frankly without hiding anything. When the Phoenix Master heard this, he looked at the young junior in front of him, as if he wanted to see through him completely. They looked at each other without giving in. Ningchen and the Phoenix Master looked at each other. Their calm eyes had their own thoughts. After staring at each other for a long time, the Phoenix Master finally said calmly, "The inheritance of the Phoenixes is different from other races. If you want to obtain the inheritance of the Phoenixes, you must obtain the Phoenix's soul imprint. I'm already dead, so I can't teach you." When Ningchen heard this, he frowned and asked, "How can I obtain the Phoenix's soul imprint?" "There are two ways," the Phoenix Master said calmly. "The Heavenly Demon Imperial family has the Phoenix clan's fighting soul, so you can take it. The other way is to find the Black Phoenix. Other than that, there's no other way." Hearing the Phoenix Master's words, Ningchen narrowed his eyes slightly. There was really no such thing as a free lunch in the world. These two methods were each more difficult than the other. Needless to say, the Heavenly Demon Clan was the most powerful race in the primitive secret realm. Its imperial family was so powerful that they shocked the powerhouses of the 100 races. Compared to the Heavenly Demon Clan, the Black Phoenix was alone. However, as a powerhouse who could launch a sneak attack and seriously injure the Phoenix Master, one could imagine how terrifying his strength was. After thinking for a long time, Ningchen collected his thoughts and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for your guidance, Senior Phoenix Master. I know what to do." The Phoenix Master looked at the young man, who had quickly calmed down, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. It was rare to see a junior who was neither arrogant nor impatient. "Young man, aren't you disappointed?" The Phoenix Master's expression became gentle as he asked. Ningchen smiled and said, "I'm indeed disappointed, but I'm already mentally prepared. After all, it's abnormal for me to obtain the Phoenix clan's secret technique so easily." The Phoenix Master nodded and said, "It's not a bad thing for a young man to experience more hardships. The Phoenix clan's secret technique is the strongest combat technique in the world. I hope that one day, you can take back the inheritance of our clan and restore its glory." Ningchen looked at the ruler of the Phoenixes in front of him and asked with a smile, "Senior Phoenix Master, it's not easy to restore the Phoenix's glory. Even if you can't teach me the Phoenix's secret techniques, don't you have anything else that you can leave for me, a junior?" When the Phoenix Master heard this, she was stunned for a moment. Not far away, when Winter Rain and Summer Solstice heard the former's words, their hearts skipped a beat, and their expressions became very interesting. "Haha!" Under the Wutong King tree, the Phoenix had laughed out loud. It was as if that was really the case. He only left the junior with a responsibility. If he didn't give him some benefits, then it wouldn't make sense. "I only have a wisp of remnant soul left, so I can't give you much. Since you've already brought it up, I can't be stingy. I'll give you a law, the sovereign law." As soon as she finished speaking, the Phoenix Master raised her hand. In an instant, endless power of laws gathered in the surroundings. The might of an emperor was revealed, and the world was under her command. The Wutong King tree shook and leaves flew everywhere. Between the two of them, a golden lightning bolt appeared and entered the former's body. Ningchen's divine sense swept across his chi, and his eyes narrowed slightly. "What's this?" "The law in your body is the power of laws that I comprehended when I became an emperor. I'll give it to you now. However, this law isn't your own power after all. Once you use it, you'll suffer great losses. Do you understand?" The Phoenix Master said seriously. "Yes." Ningchen nodded and bowed respectfully again. "Thank you, Senior Phoenix Master." The Phoenix Master smiled and looked into the distance. "All right, my mission has been completed. Now it's time to meet some old friends." As soon as she finished speaking, spiritual chi gathered between heaven and earth. The Phoenix Master's illusory figure began to solidify, and an incomparably terrifying power spread out. In an instant, a peerless powerhouse wearing a purple robe and a crown walked out. The Emperor of the Phoenixes had reappeared. With a step forward, Heaven and earth shrank. With a terrifying speed that surpassed the law of space, the emperor's figure disappeared without a trace. In the next moment, an endless distance away, in the primordial demon territory, the Phoenix Master wearing a purple robe and a crown walked out. Multicolored light rose around his body, and he looked down on the world, shocking the kings of the demon territory. It's him, Phoenix Master. He's still alive. In the demon territory, a king with a terrifying aura opened his eyes and looked into the sky with a shocked expression. No, it's impossible for the Phoenix Master to still be alive. This should be just a remnant soul. Another powerful king said in a serious tone. That's the Phoenix Master. A third king said in a deep voice. Even if it's just a remnant soul, we can't fight against him. There's no need to die with him at this time. The kings nodded. At this moment, in the depths of the demon territory, a terrifying aura that surpassed the kings awakened. The old eyes opened and looked at the Phoenix Master in the void. His eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor, how have you been? In the void, the Phoenix Master looked at the old figure in the depths of the primordial demon territory, and said coldly, Phoenix Master, I didn't expect to see an old friend again after so many years. In the depths of the demon territory, an old voice sounded. Where's the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor? Has he fallen? The Phoenix Master's lips curled into a cold smile. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm doing very well. At this moment, in the depths of the primordial demon territory, another extremely powerful aura awakened. It was ancient and terrifying, as if it came from the ancient times. 7 Brilliance, 8 Desolation. Very well. Since both of you are here, I didn't come here in vain. The Phoenix Master sneered and took a step forward. The aura around him shot into the clouds. Endless mist floated up and down, isolating the law of time. The terrifying emperor in the endless light suppressed the 9 heavens, and looked down on the 10 lands. The invincible Phoenix Master of the ancient times once again displayed his peerless imperial might. He raised his hand and slammed it into the depths of the primordial demon territory. The imperial might descended. In an earth-shattering tremor, the entire primordial demon territory collapsed. The ground cracked, and dust covered the sun. Just as the Phoenix Master was descending on the primordial demon territory, 3 people walked out of the 100,000 mountains. In front of the mountain range, Ningchen stopped. Red light rose around his body. The phoenix body formed and separated from his main body. I have to go back as soon as possible. I'll leave this place to you, the phoenix body said calmly. Okay. Ningchen nodded. Pay attention to the black phoenix. He may be hiding in the sky beyond sky. Understood. The phoenix body responded. Without another word, he disappeared in a flash. Behind him, Dongyu and Summer Solstice watched the phoenix body leave. Confusion flashed across their eyes. Mr. Ning, why did you let the phoenix body leave? Isn't that one of your clones? If it leaves, your cultivation will be affected. It will not be good for the competition of the 100 kinds. Summer Solstice reminded him out of kindness. It's okay. Ningchen chuckled. He has his own responsibilities. He can't leave for long. Let's go. It's getting late. We have to hurry. With that, Ningchen smiled faintly and walked forward. Hearing this, Dongyu and Summer Solstice didn't ask more and quickly followed. After a few days of traveling, chariots could be seen in the sky above the barren land. The heavens' favorites from the 100 kinds had all left, and were heading towards the ancient barren land. Along the way, Ningchen led Dongyu and Summer Solstice forward. Along the way, they met many young heavens' favorites from the 100 kinds. The most powerful one was extremely close to the mortal realm. In the glorious era, there were many heavens' favorites from the 100 kinds. Jinlin, from the Scaled clan, Hong Yuan from the Golden Lion clan, Song Ming from the Howling Moon clan. Many young powerhouses were famous, and were known to have the potential to become emperors. There were even rumors that some of the young powerhouses of this generation had already entered the mortal realm. After becoming an immortal, one would return to the mortal realm, and return to the mortal realm. If one didn't enter this realm, then no matter how monstrous a genius was, their Tao would be nothing but a dream. At the end of the barren land, the ancient city of Jueyang was a majestic sight. Even in the primitive demon realm, it was one of the few ancient cities. Half a month later, Ningchen and the others arrived at the majestic city. The city walls were over 100 feet tall, completely constructed from gold and stone. Under the blazing sun, they emitted a dazzling light. Even after so many years, the ancient city still stood strong, towering over the eastern continent of the primal devil realm. We're here, the ancient city of Jueyang. Xiaji's eyes were filled with excitement when she saw the words carved on the city walls. Young Master Dongyu, let's go in quickly. It's my first time here. Okay. Ningchen chuckled and nodded before continuing to walk forward. The three of them walked into the ancient city. As soon as they entered the city, they immediately felt a powerful pressure. Waves of terrifying auras were faintly discernible in the city. They couldn't sense the specific direction, but they were clearly there. Ningchen looked ahead and narrowed his eyes. King Realm. There was at least one King Realm expert in this city, as expected of a city that one had to pass through on their way to the east. With a King Realm expert in charge, even the heavens' favorites didn't dare to cause trouble. Boom. At this moment, a war chariot flew across the sky. A powerful aura pressed down. The aura was infinitely close to the mortal realm. It was powerful and domineering. While everyone was still in shock, a woman covered in blood fell from the sky and crashed into the city with a thump. On the war chariot in the sky, a young man covered in armor stood. His eyes were cold, and he held a battle record in his hand. He was extraordinarily handsome. Aolai. In the city, the young experts were all shocked when they saw the figure in the sky. The peerless genius of the Prung clan had actually arrived so quickly. Below, the woman coughed violently. Blood dyed the dust in front of her, and the white wings on her back were dyed red. It was extremely miserable. It's someone from the Egret clan, Xiaji exclaimed when she saw the wings on the woman's back. On the side, Dongyu's expression became serious. The heavenly Peng fed on hundreds of birds. Fortunately, the woman had escaped into the city and saved her life. Before she could finish her thoughts, a shocking scene occurred in front of her. On the war chariot, a cold smile flashed on the young man's face. He waved his halberd, and a huge heavenly Peng appeared behind him. The Peng opened its mouth and swallowed the woman below. Chapter 1001. In Jueyang Ancient City, the peerless prodigy of the Heavenly Rock clan revealed his ferocious might. His evil face appeared and swallowed the girl from the Egret clan. It was a shocking scene. Everyone's eyes trembled violently. They couldn't recover from their shock for a while. Everyone knew how overbearing the Heavenly Rock clan was. However, this was Jueyang Ancient City, where killing was not allowed. The peerless prodigy of the Heavenly Rock clan actually dared to act so arrogantly. The blood on the ground told of how cruel the scene was. Eating a living person alive was heart-wrenching. Below, Ningchen looked at this scene with a hint of coldness in his calm eyes. The grudges of the 100 clans had nothing to do with him. However, this young man from the Heavenly Rock clan had gone too far. He's too arrogant. At the side, Summer Solstice was furious. Eating other clans in broad daylight? Was there any law left? Dongyu heard this and hurriedly reached out to pull the former. The Heavenly Rock clan was their natural enemy. During the ancient war of the 100 clans, many experts from the Luan clan had died in the hands of the Heavenly Rock clan. Other than the Phoenix, no other clan could match the speed of the Heavenly Rock clan. This was also why the Heavenly Rock clan dared to be so arrogant. In the sky, on the chariot, Aolai looked down and slowly descended. Seeing this, everyone moved aside. No one wanted to provoke him at this time. Aolai walked forward step by step through the path that everyone had opened. The coldness in his eyes was bone-chilling. Behind everyone, Summer Solstice felt a chill rise around her. The fear that came from the depths of her bloodline made it difficult for her to move. Dongyu immediately pulled Summer Solstice behind her and was on full alert. Who said those words just now? Aolai stopped, looked at the two girls, and said indifferently, I said it. Dongyu stood in front of Summer Solstice and said in a deep voice, Very good. Aolai raised his hand. Instantly, a terrifying aura rose again. The phantom of the heavenly rock appeared, its ferocious might shaking the sky. Dong Yu's eyes narrowed. She pulled summer solstice and immediately retreated. However, the heavenly rock was extremely fast. There was no way to avoid it. The phantom devoured the sky and swallowed the two girls. Your Excellency Sky Rock, these two ladies are my servant girls. If you want to touch them, have you asked for my permission? As she spoke, Bai Yi's figure flashed. She raised her hand and blocked the heavenly rock evil avatar. The drifting frost was exceptionally beautiful. The ice and snow condensed into a barrier, blocking all wind and rain. No one could take half a step past it. Aolai looked at the young man in front of him, his expression cold. He clenched his right hand, and the green halberd flew out from the war chariot behind him. With a rumble, the ferocious halberd broke through the wind and snow. Its power did not diminish as it continued to slash towards the white-clothed figure. The ferocious halberd was overbearing and all-conquering. Behind him, Dong Yu and Xia Zhi's expressions changed as they cried out in alarm. In front of the two, Ning Chen frowned slightly. He didn't dodge or evade. Instead, he raised his left hand and took the halberd head-on. The wind and snow continued to spread, and the ground shook violently. Under Ning Chen's feet, the ground continued to crack, and the cracks continued to spread for thousands of feet. Your Excellency Sky Rock, where it is possible to let people off, one should spare them. Is that enough? Ning Chen said coldly as he gripped his ferocious halberd, and looked at the peerless genius of the Tianpeng race who was close by. Since you dare to stand in my way, you should be prepared to bear the consequences. Aolai coldly said. He turned his palm and formed a claw. A ferocious light tore through the air. Ning Chen's eyes became even colder. He still didn't dodge or evade. Instead, he met the claw with a heavy punch. There was a loud rumble and the shock waves shook the area. Those with weaker bodies were immediately forced back several feet, their blood tumbling violently in their bodies. Dong Yu Xiaji stepped back a little. Ning Chen's patience had been exhausted after giving in for two moves. He opened his mouth to speak. The two women heard this and immediately retreated, temporarily withdrawing from the battle. Seeing the two women leave the battle, Ning Chen looked at the man in front of him, killing intent flashing in his eyes. He had never been a patient person, but the person in front of him had aroused his killing intent. Feeling the killing intent from the former, the killing intent in Aolai's eyes became even thicker. With a loud shout, the Tianpeng evil face reared back and screeched. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. He loosened his hands and his figure flashed, avoiding the evil face's attack. You think you can avoid it? Aolai coldly snorted. He stepped forwards and instantly rushed forward. The ferocious halberd pierced through the air, tearing the heavens and the earth apart. Facing the ferocious Tianpeng race's peerless genius, Ning Chen used strange footwork. His figure flashed, avoiding one killing move after another. After a while, 10 moves had passed. Aolai's eyes became even more ruthless. His attacks were like a storm, each more ruthless than the last. Amidst the violent halberd light, Ning Chen suddenly stopped. He clenched his right hand, and in an instant, wild bone was unsheathed. The black saber was soul-stirring. The stunning saber cut through the wind and rain, shocking the world. The black saber was about to fall, and the heavens and earth shook. At this moment, a golden light flashed in the distance. In the blink of an eye, she had arrived in the battle. She raised her delicate hand and blocked the black saber. What entered their eyes was a peerless beauty. She was dressed in golden divine clothes. Her eyes were like autumn water, and her face was like peach blossoms. She was beautiful and refined. With just a glance, it was difficult to look away. Jean Liner. Many of the people present recognized the woman's identity, and exclaimed in shock. Among the 100 clans, there were a few special clans with sovereigns overseeing them. Their strength was terrifying. The Scaled clan was one of them. The Scaled clan was known to have the best defense among the 100 clans. Every Scaled clan powerhouse was very powerful, and they rarely met a match in the same realm. The woman in front of them was the granddaughter of the current Scaled emperor. Her bloodline was extremely pure, and she was known as the person most likely to become a sovereign in this generation. Jean Lin made her move, and the situation of the battle changed instantly. Killing intent flashed in Ning Chen's eyes. A member of the Scaled clan. He was no stranger to the Scaled clan. They were the first to bring the flames of war to the divine land. Therefore, he did not have a good impression of this clan. Feeling the killing intent from the young man in front of her, Jinlin frowned slightly. Did she see wrongly just now? Why did this person have such a strong killing intent toward her? Jinlin, aren't you meddling too much? Aolai looked at the woman in front of him. A gloomy expression flashed across his cold face. Jinlin turned around and looked at the man behind her. She said indifferently, "This is Jueyang Ancient City, not your rock clan. If you don't want to make King Jueyang unhappy, you'd better restrain yourself." When Aolai heard this, his expression darkened again. After a moment he withdrew his aura and turned to leave. "Dongyu Xiaji, let's go too." In front, Ningchen glanced at the two women not far away and said calmly. He then walked in another direction. "Young master, please wait," Jinlin said. Hearing the woman's voice, Ningchen stopped and said calmly, "Miss, what can I do for you?" "It's fate that we met. May I know your name?" Jinlin asked in a serious voice. "I'm just a country bumpkin. There's no need for you to worry. We'll meet again," Ningchen said indifferently. He did not stay any longer and walked forward. Dongyu and Xiaji looked at each other and followed. Their young master's attitude seemed a little strange. Behind them, Jinlin watched the three of them leave. Her beautiful eyes flashed. Something was not right. This person was indeed hostile toward her. "Young master." On the streets of the city, Xiaji carefully pulled the sleeve of the person next to her and whispered, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Ningchen's face showed gentleness again. He said, "Let's find a place to rest for the night and continue our journey tomorrow." "Okay." The two women nodded and agreed softly. In the west of the city, in a bustling inn, the three of them asked for 2 rooms to stay temporarily. Night fell and the entire ancient city gradually quieted down. In front of the window, Ningchen stood quietly and looked at the dark clouds in the ancient city. His calm eyes flashed with brilliance. He had promised King Shiri that he would help King Shiri City win first place in this 100-clan competition and obtain the Yin Yongnan Jade. He did not care about King Shiri's purpose. What he valued more in this deal was the background of King Shiri City. He needed a new identity. Shiri Imperial City was remote and not easy to be noticed by other big clans. It was the most suitable choice for the time being. The more one knew about the strength of the 100 clans, the more shocking it was. Whether it was the number of masters or the potential of the younger generation, it was not something that the inner world and the human realm upon heavens could compare to. Today it was only their first day in Jueyang Ancient City, and they had already met 2 peerless geniuses of the 100 clans. Especially that Jinlin, whose cultivation was unfathomable, would be a great enemy in the future. In the next room, Xiaji sat on the bed and kicked the bed back and forth with her white legs. She said in boredom, "Dongyu, what do you think happened to the young master today? He's so scary." "I don't know." Dongyu's expression turned serious. His attitude towards Jinlin seems a bit abnormal. Young Master Ning has always been kind to people. If there is no grudge, he shouldn't be so cold. That's right. That Jinlin is so beautiful. Even I envy her. Xiaji pouted and said, "But speaking of which, the young master saved us again today. That Aolai is so annoying. The Tianpeng clan likes to eat blood. We are at a disadvantage against him. We should be more careful in the future," Dongyu reminded softly. "It's okay. The young master is here." Xiaji giggled. "Don't mess around," Dongyu reprimanded softly. "Young Master Ning can't always protect us. Also, don't let the matter of the young master slip. Otherwise, it will bring trouble to him." "Yes, I know." Xiaji nodded and replied. She knew that phoenixes were a taboo in the primordial demon realm, especially for the Tian demon clan. If they knew that young Master Ning had the phoenix origin, they would definitely make a big fuss. "All right, let's rest early. We'll set off early tomorrow morning," Dongyu said softly, then walked to the side and blew out the candle flame. The night passed uneventfully. The next day, when the sky was about to brighten, The plain-clothed figure standing by the window collected his thoughts and walked to the door, ready to call the two girls to set off. In the next room, the door creaked open. Xiaji walked out while rubbing her eyes. Seeing the figure in front of the room next door, she said in a daze, "Good morning, young master. Pack up and get ready to set off." Ningchen said with a smile. "Yes." Xiaji replied softly. Just as she was about to turn and return to her room, she suddenly paused. "Young master, the King of Absolute Yang invites you." As they spoke, a black-clothed figure walked out from behind the two. He looked at the plain-clothed young man and said respectfully. Chapter 1002. Lotus flowers bloomed all over the surface of the lake in King Zhu palace. The fragrance of the flowers drifted in the air. The king had set up a banquet by the lake. Jin Lin of the Scale clan, Ao Lai of the Rock clan, and Song Ming of the Howling Moon clan were all present. Even the prodigies of the 100 clans did not dare to neglect the invitation of King Zhu, and came on time. The banquet was about to begin. At this moment, a plain-clothed figure walked over. Two women followed behind him. They were half a step behind and did not overtake him. "He's here." When the young geniuses from the 100 clans saw the newcomer, their expressions froze. They had already heard of the battle in the city earlier. The young man before them had actually fought to a draw with the supreme genius of the Rock clan. This battle record was truly shocking. The Sky Rock clan was the top king clan among the 100 clans. The current King Rock's strength was infinitely close to that of an emperor. There were rumors that the King Rock would be able to break through the King Realm's shackles soon and become an emperor. Regardless of whether the rumors were true or false, the Sky Rock clan was undoubtedly powerful. In the same realm, the Sky Rock clan had a huge advantage in speed. Other than a few clans with royal bloodlines, almost no other clans could compete with them. Although the cultivation of the young man in front of them could not be seen clearly, he was definitely not a Red Dust Realm expert. He was only in the Ascending Immortal Realm, but he was able to tie with the Rock clan's prodigy. This showed how terrifying his combat strength was. When Ningchen arrived, all the guests had arrived. At this moment, rays of light gathered in front of the main seat. An extremely powerful aura walked out. Auspicious lights flowed around him. The aura of a king suppressed the entire place. "Greetings, King Zhu." Everyone stood up and bowed respectfully to the man in front of the main seat. "No need to be so courteous, please sit," King Zhu said calmly. He sat down and withdrew his powerful cultivation. However, even so, his imposing aura still gave the prodigies of the younger generation an indescribable pressure. "Everyone is passing by Zhu City. As the host, I have specially invited all of you to come and play host." King Zhu looked at the prodigies below and smiled. "You're too polite, King Zhu." The leader of the group, Jin Lin, smiled and replied, "It should be us who have come to greet King Zhu. Niece, you're too courteous. Your father and I have been friends for a long time. I've always wanted to pay a visit to the Scaled tribe. Unfortunately, I've been busy and never had the chance to do so. Now that you've come to my city, I naturally have to receive you well." The king of Zhuang smiled as he looked at the Scaled tribe prodigy, leading the crowd below. "Many thanks to King Zhuang. Before I left, my royal father specially instructed me to send my regards to King Zhuang," Jin Lin said with a smile. The two of them exchanged pleasantries. Below them, Xiaji felt dizzy listening to them. She secretly tugged at the clothes of the person beside her and whispered, "Young master, is the Scaled clan and Zhuang ancient city that close?" Ningchen smiled and sent a voice transmission. "Do you know what it means to be a spiritual friend for a long time?" Xiaji shook her head and said honestly, "I don't know. It's just that we've never met before." Ningchen chuckled and said, "Just listen to the words of these two people. However, you don't have to believe a single word they say." Xiaji was surprised and immediately nodded obediently. On the opposite side of the seat, Ao Lai stared coldly at the plain-clothed young man in front of him. He did not hide his killing intent at all. As long as he left Zhuang City, he would definitely let this person know what it meant to be better off dead. Ningchen felt the killing intent from the opposite side, but his expression was calm and he did not care at all. He had experienced too many of such gazes. It did not matter if there was one more or one less. How annoying! Xia Ji muttered in her heart, but did not say anything. She did not want to cause trouble for her young master, so she only cursed this person in her heart. King Jueyang, I'll give you a toast. Behind Jin Lin, a young man in green stood up and said respectfully, "You're too courteous. Please." The king of Jueyang picked up his wine cup and smiled. "Who is this person?" Ning Chen asked Dong Yu, who was beside him. "Song Ming, the young master of the Howling Moon clan." "What's wrong?" Dong Yu was puzzled. "Nothing." Ning Chen narrowed his eyes and said, "This person is very strong. He's not inferior to Ao Lai of the Rock clan. He's even stronger than him." Dong Yu was surprised when she heard that. The young master of the Howling Moon clan was the most low-key person among the big clans. He rarely took action. How did her young master know? After Song Ming, the sky prides of the 100 clans stood up one by one to give a toast. The king of Jueyang also responded with a smile on his face. He looked very gentle. When it was Ao Lai's turn, everyone looked over. The peerless sky pride of the Sky Rock clan had eaten a lady of the Egret clan as soon as he entered the city. He was extremely arrogant, and no one knew what the king of Jueyang's attitude would be. Ao Lai stood up and bowed to the king of Jueyang with a wine cup in his hand. Junior Ao Lai gives a toast to the king of Jueyang. "I was hungry earlier and ate some food in the city. I've lost my manners and embarrassed myself in front of the king of Jueyang." As soon as he said that, everyone was surprised. The peerless sky pride of the Sky Rock clan actually admitted his mistake. It was really unexpected. "Nephew, you don't have to worry about it. However, this kind of thing shouldn't happen again in the future. After all, nephew, you are a member of the royal clan. You still have to abide by the rules of eating." The king of Jueyang revealed a smile that no one could understand. After replying, he drank the wine in his cup in one gulp. "Thank you for your magnanimity, king of Jueyang. I will pay attention in the future." Ao Lai nodded and raised his cup with both hands. He drank the wine and sat down again. Behind the seats, Ning Chen watched the scene quietly. The corner of his mouth curved into a cold arc. A lady of the Egret clan was settled with just a cup of wine. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, life was indeed the most worthless thing. This peerless sky pride of the Sky Rock clan was not as reckless as he looked on the surface. As for the king of Jueyang, he was not as magnanimous and gentle as he looked. A simple cup of wine contained too many things. When the wine cup was put down, the past was gone. The sky prides of the various clans regained their senses, and threw this matter to the back of their minds. The sky prides of the various clans stood up one after another, and toasted the king of Jueyang, who represented power and strength. The last person was Ning Chen, who was seated at the end of the seats. He had never heard of him before. Everyone present was rather curious about his identity. "This junior is Ning Chen from Sunrise Royal City. A toast to the king of Jueyang." Ning Chen stood up, raised his cup and said calmly, "Sunrise Royal City?" When everyone heard this, their expressions froze. Sunrise Royal City had a young lord named Yu Yao. It was rumored that he was an expert of the sword. The young man before them was clearly not one. "Nephew, you are from Sunrise Royal City? May I know who your master is?" The king of Jueyang looked at the young man below and asked. "I don't have a master," Ning Chen said calmly. "I was just lucky to obtain some arts. I have been cultivating until now, but they are not presentable." When the king of Jueyang heard this, he smiled and did not ask any further. He drank the wine in his cup. Ning Chen drank the wine in one gulp as well, and sat down quietly. After everyone had given their toasts, Jin Lin looked at the king on the main seat and said, "It is rumored that the king of Jueyang has an only son who has extraordinary attainments in the sword. May I know if he is still in the city?" "Rumors are not to be trusted. My son has not left yet. However, I have invited all of you to a banquet today. It is better for my son not to join us," the king of despair said with a smile. "The king of Jueyang is too humble. I have met Gu Xian once. His sword is still deeply engraved in my memory." Behind Jin Lin, the young man in green said calmly. When Jin Lin Ao Lai and the rest heard Song Ming's words, a strange look flashed across their eyes. It seemed like this person was not simple to be praised by the young lord of Howling Moon clan. If that is the case, why don't you let brother Gu Xian join us as well? Let us witness the glory of the king of Jiuyang Royal City's young lord. Ao Lai said calmly. The king of Jiuyang looked at everyone's eyes. After a while he smiled and said, since everyone has praised me, I shall call my son here to broaden my horizons. After speaking, the king of Jiuyang looked at the maid standing behind him and said calmly, call Gu Xian here. Yes. The maid accepted the order and left immediately. Have you heard of Gu Xian? Ningchen looked at the two girls beside him and asked. No. Dong Yu shook her head and replied. Neither have I. Xie wiped her oily mouth and shook her head vigorously. Ningchen nodded. Just as he was about to speak, his expression froze and he looked into the distance. At the end of the Water Moon Lake, there was a sharp radiance. It was like a peerless divine weapon that was born. It was cold and sharp. The sword aura spread, and waves appeared on the surface of the lake. The sword at the peak resonated with the heavens and earth. Feeling the sword aura from the distance, Ning Chen's expression became serious for the first time. Such a pure sword. After being in the primal secret realm for so long, this was the first time he had met a pure sword cultivator. Using a sword was completely different from cultivating it. Cultivators of the sword, such as Mu Bai from Desolate City and Yanqin Wang, were the purest experts of the sword. In comparison, Mu Qingxue and Xia Zi used the sword more as a tool and sharpness rather than cultivating it. Although the young lord of Jiuyang City had not shown himself yet, the aura from his sword already showed that he was a peak sword cultivator. An extraordinary sword cultivator. Jean Lin also felt the sword pressure from the distance. Her gaze froze as she spoke softly. As soon as he finished speaking, a crimson figure walked over from the end of the Water Moon Lake. He held a cold sword in his hand and had a jade-like face. His overly delicate face seemed a little feminine, giving off an indescribable sense of incongruity. Seeing this person, Ning Chen frowned slightly. This young lord of Jiuyang City made him think of someone. Back then, Yin Wugo of the Tyli division, a killing tool that had been cleansed. Greetings, father. Gu Xian walked to the center of the table and bowed respectfully to the man on the main seat. Gu Xian, these are the geniuses of the various clans. Father has called you here to broaden your horizons. Take a seat first, King Jiuyang said with a smile from the main seat. Thank you, father. Gu Xian bowed once again and walked towards the end of the seats. The seats faced each other. Gu Xian's footsteps paused as he looked at the plain-clothed young man on the opposite seat. His eyes narrowed slightly. This person was very strong. Chapter 1003. At the lakeside of the Water Moon Lake in the Absolute Yang Royal Residence, the Absolute Yang Royal Residence invited the outstanding talents of the 100 races. Gu Xian was invited, and his sword intent shocked everyone. After bowing, Gu Xian took his seat. Unintentionally, his gaze swept across the other side, and his expression froze. Their gazes were equally calm. After a while, Gu Xian withdrew his gaze and walked back to his seat. This plain-clothed youth was a true expert. Gu Xian took his seat, and Ning Chen's gaze moved away from the former. He smiled and picked up his wine cup, taking a sip. It looked like the competition between the 100 races would not be too peaceful this time. On the main seat, the Absolute Yang Royal Residence looked at his only son at the end of the table and smiled. Gu Xian, why are you still not toasting to the friends of the various races? Yes. Gu Xian stood up and immediately raised his wine cup, toasting to the outstanding talents of the various races present. The young experts of the various races at the table stood up and politely responded. After finishing the wine, Gu Xian looked at Ao Lai, who was not far away, and said, "How about we have a spar, young master of the rock race?" The moment Gu Xian said that, everyone showed a strange expression. They shifted their gazes and looked at the Absolute Yang Royal Residence on the main seat. Could it be that this was instructed by the Absolute Yang Royal Residence? Seeing everyone look over, the Absolute Yang Royal Residence's expression sank. He looked at his only son at the end of the table and reprimanded. Gu Xian, don't be rude. How can you use force at the banquet and ruin everyone's mood? just sparring to liven things up. Then he looked at Aolai at the side and said, I believe that the rock race young master will not refuse, right? Although his provocative words were calm, they did not allow for rejection. A cold light flashed in Aolai's eyes. He stood up and said, I'll be happy to accompany you. Both sides expressed their stances, and the atmosphere immediately turned tense. On the main seat, the absolute young royal residence's expression turned increasingly gloomy, but he did not say anything to stop them. When the two arrived, Gu Xian looked at the person in front of him. His lips curled up in a strange smile as he said, Please. Aolai waved his hand, and a halberd appeared in the surging airflow. Baleful chi spread out, driving people crazy. Please. After saying that, Aolai moved. In the blink of an eye, the halberd was Gu Xian. Gu Xian raised his hand and welcomed the attack with his ancient sword. The sword was not out of its scabbard, but the sword chi was self-generated. With a bang, the scabbard blocked the halberd. The air around the two of them shook and spread to the banquet. Among the seats, the paragons of the 100 races pressed their hands on the table one after another. Their auras spread and blocked the aftershocks. In the battle, after one move, Aolai turned his palm and clawed at the former. Gu Xian leaned to the side and avoided the sharp claws. He formed a sword with his fingers and attacked back forcefully. In close combat, every move was fast and dangerous. Both of them were rarely seen experts in the world. Their moves were incomparably swift and fierce and abnormally domineering. The desolate halberd danced, earth-shattering and earth-shattering. His sword finger pointed. The sharpness of his sword was oppressive. The two silhouettes constantly intertwined, halberd light and sword chi crisscrossing. Being in the king's mansion of Juyang, the two's martial arts were suppressed by more than half, so they won with moves. They were of the same level, but their battle tactics were completely different. Seated at the banquet, the young sky prides watched the battle between the two with solemn expressions. Both of them were at the peak of the treading celestial stage, and were only a step away from the red dust stage. In terms of cultivation, it was hard to say who was stronger or weaker, but in many cases, true combat strength was not absolutely related to cultivation. After exchanging several moves, clanging sounds rang out incessantly. It seemed like a battle of equals, but Gu Xian never drew his ancient sword. On both sides of the banquet, the young sky prides of the various races also noticed this. Their expressions turned serious. A swordsman who had yet to draw his sword was already so capable. Once he drew his sword, just how strong would he be? On the main seat, King Jueyang watched the battle below. His expression returned to normal. From start to finish, he did not say a single word. In the battle, as the battle progressed, Aolai's expression turned darker and darker. His halberd tore through the air, and his attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Amidst the storm-like attacks, Gu Xian's figure constantly moved, dodging wave after wave of attacks. He looked ahead, waiting for a chance to counterattack. Unable to take it down after a long time, Aolai's patience was running out. He took a step forward, and the heavenly Peng evil avatar appeared behind him. The sudden increase in speed and power caused ripples to spread out. The water in Watermoon Lake surged like a waterfall. Seeing this, Gu Xian's lips turned cold. He swung his ancient sword, and in that instant, an incomparably cold aura spread out. The entire Watermoon Lake instantly froze over. The ancient sword was drawn, and the cold aura did not spread out. Wherever the sword aura passed, the world turned to ice. This is. On the main seat, Jean Lin Er's expression changed when she saw this. She exclaimed, Moon Sword. Moon Sword and Sun Sword were two divine weapons that had been lost in the primordial demon realm for a long time. Unexpectedly, one of them was actually in King Jueyang City. Once Moon Sword was drawn, the situation of the battle changed. Under the extreme cold, Aolai felt the aura around him become sluggish. His expression sank, and his cultivation erupted. On the main seat, King Jueyang immediately stood up. He opened his hands, and an incomparably powerful aura spread out, limiting the shockwaves of the battle to a radius of 30 meters. With King Jueyang making a move, everyone present heaved a sigh of relief, and watched the battle with peace of mind. In the battle, Ao Lai was the first to erupt with his cultivation. The power of his move instantly increased by several times. The power was earth-shattering, and the ground within 30 meters collapsed. Gu Xian's eyes turned cold, and he no longer suppressed his cultivation. His peak-treading immortal cultivation was fully unleashed. Moon sword slashed down, and the cold aura sealed the sky. The sword and halberd clashed again. Neither side retreated a single step, and the situation remained the same. Ao Lai pulled back his halberd. Suddenly he felt a chill. At the point where the sword and halberd clashed, the cold aura spread out. The halberd actually started to freeze, and it spread all the way to his arm. The sudden change triggered the ferocity in Ao Lai's heart. His true chi surged, and the ice on his arm was shattered. Gu Xian's eyes narrowed, and his sword aura changed direction, piercing toward Ao Lai's heart. The tip of the sword closed in, but Ao Lai did not dodge. He raised his hand and grabbed the tip of the sword. An ear-piercing friction sound rang out, and the armor on his hand actually showed signs of cracking. Ao Lai waved his halberd, and the overbearing halberd fell down. Its ferocious power was shocking, and it cut open the cold heaven and earth, landing on the person in front of him. Facing such a desperate battle, Gu Xian's eyes showed displeasure. His figure flashed, and he pulled out his sword to leave the battle. If it was not a battle of life and death, he could not really take Ao Lai's life. This kind of battle was really annoying. Seeing Gu Xian retreat, Ao Lai took a step forward, and instantly stood up. The halberd was overbearing, and its power was as heavy as a mountain. You don't know your place. Gu Xian's eyes darkened, and the moon sword in his hand shone brightly. The power of a peerless divine weapon was fully displayed. With a slash of the sword, the frozen void shattered inch by inch. The sword and halberd fell at the same time, and the outcome of the battle was decided. At this moment, King Jueyang on the main seat moved. He took a step forward, and instantly arrived between the two. He raised his hands and blocked the halberd. All right, this battle ends here. King Jueyang glanced at the two and said lightly. Seeing the mountain between them, Gu Xian's eyes darkened. After a moment, he put away his sword, turned around, and walked back to his seat. In front of King Jueyang, Ao Lai's expression changed. He had no choice but to put away his halberd and return to his seat. After the two returned to their seats, King Jueyang waved his hand to scatter the shock waves from the battle. Amid rumbling, the collapsed ground closed up and returned to normal. After doing all that, King Jueyang's figure flashed, and he returned to his seat. My son is obsessed with martial arts. Since he met rare experts like everyone here, he could not help but overestimate himself and challenge them. I hope that everyone will not take it to heart, King Jueyang said, a smile appearing on his face again. It is true that young Master Jueyang is obsessed with martial arts. However, there is no way to say that he overestimates himself. He lives up to his reputation. Today, I can see that your city's young master's attainments in the sword are indeed extraordinary. Jin Lin who sat at the head of the seats, said. Niece, you praise me too much. King Jueyang smiled faintly and said, My son's insignificant skills in the sword are not worthy of attention. He is only barely impressive because of his divine weapon. At the end of the seats, Gu Xian's expression did not change at all when he heard his father's evaluation. He picked up the wine cup in front of him and drank silently. Then he inadvertently looked at the plain-clothed youth across him. He felt that this person was the true expert. Sensing Gu Xian's gaze, Ningchen smiled and raised his cup in acknowledgement. Then he took a sip and put it down. Earlier, Ningchen was uncertain. However, after the battle earlier, he was certain that this young master of Jueyang Royal City was someone who had cleansed himself. If it were an ordinary poor family, it would be understandable for them to cleanse themselves as slaves in order to make a living. However, this young master Gu Xian, as the young master of Jueyang Royal City, had cleansed himself as well. This was truly inconceivable. Rumor had it that there were some special cultivation techniques that required special methods to reach the peak. However, these were only rumors in the end. No one had seen them before. If this young master of Jueyang Royal City truly chose to cleanse himself in order to cultivate some cultivation technique, then it was truly incomprehensible. Brother, how should I address you? Just at this moment, Gu Xian asked calmly from across the seats. Ningchen. Ningchen came back to his senses and replied. Brother Ning seems to have an understanding of the sword that is difficult for ordinary people. Gu Xian said as he looked at the person before him. I do know a thing or two, Ningchen nodded. Why don't we spar? Gu Xian said seriously. Sure, but, as he spoke, Ningchen looked towards the main seat and smiled. It doesn't seem possible now. Gu Xian looked at his father on the main seat. After a while he withdrew his gaze and said calmly, Indeed, it's not possible today. Let's do it another day. There's still some distance to the ancient desolate plains. There will definitely be opportunities. Ningchen smiled and said, If there's a chance, I will definitely spar with young master. Then it's settled. A rare smile appeared on Gu Xian's slightly feminine face as he nodded. On the main seat, King Jueyang looked at the exchange between the two people at the end of the seats and unconsciously frowned. Gu Xian, if you continue to cause trouble, don't blame your father for being merciless. Your mission is to obtain the Yin Yang Non-Jade. Before that, your strength cannot be exposed, King Jueyang said in a deep voice. Hearing the voice, Gu Xian's smile grew wider and wider. Coupled with his feminine face, it seemed so chilling. Your son naturally does not dare to disobey father's orders. Gu Xian drank the wine in front of him and said with a brilliant smile. However, these people will all be your son's opponents in the fight for the Yin Yang Non-Jade. Why don't you kill them all? Chapter 1004. At the King of Jueyang's residence, a banquet lasted from noon until sunset. When the sun set, the banquet dispersed and the young experts left one after another. After the guests left, King of Jueyang looked at his only son who was still drinking silently at the end of the table. His expression turned cold as his figure flashed and appeared before him. Slap. A loud slap landed on Gu Xian's face. King of Jueyang looked at the former and said in a deep voice, You're getting more and more presumptuous. Gu Xian raised his head and looked coldly at the person in front of him. He raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Without saying a word, he turned and left. Looking at the former's departing figure, King of Jueyang clenched his fists tightly. The coldness in his eyes was bone-chilling. Outside Jueyang Ancient City, Ningchen continued forward with the two girls. The bright moon rose in the sky and the moonlight shone down. The beautiful night made people feel relaxed and happy. Xiaji skipped in front and led the way. She seemed to be in a good mood. Dongyu reminded her from time to time. However, Xiaji only gave a perfunctory reply and continued to entertain herself. Ningchen followed behind with a gentle smile on his face. He didn't care about the two girls. As he walked, he quietly thought about something. Young master, will the young master of the Rock clan follow us? Dongyu was a little worried and asked. Yes. Ningchen smiled and nodded. This person will take revenge for the smallest grievance. It's impossible for him to let it go. I think he should be behind us. When we're a sufficient distance away from Jueyang Ancient City, he will attack. Young master, aren't you worried at all? Dongyu asked seriously. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Ningchen smiled and said, Besides, it's still unknown who's on the chopping block and who's on the fish. Hearing the former's words, Dongyu was still worried. She looked behind from time to time, on guard against the young master of the Rock clan who could appear at any time. Under the night sky, the three of them continued forward. The bright moon moved west and the weather was getting colder and colder. However, the three of them were martial experts and didn't have much effect. When the moon was in the middle of the sky, Ningchen stopped and turned around. He said calmly, Brother, aren't you tired after following us for so long? Show yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, Dongyu and Summer Solstice were startled. They looked back with a trace of nervousness on their faces. So you've already noticed me. As he spoke, a figure shrouded in killing intent walked over from the distant night. He held a halberd in his hand, and his eyes were cold like ice. Summer Solstice, Winter Rain, step back, Ningchen said as he looked at the approaching figure. And hearing this, Dongyu nodded, pulled Summer Solstice, and quickly withdrew from the battlefield. The two women retreated. In the battle, the two faced each other, and the atmosphere became abnormally heavy. A cold wind blew past, and a sandstorm rose up. In an instant, Aolai's head appeared, and the desolate halberd broke through the air, dominating the world. Ningchen put his fingers together and blocked the halberd with a loud clang. His feet trembled as he dispelled the tremendous force. With a rumbling sound, the earth cracked open, and the cracks continued to spread out, reaching hundreds of li away. It was a simple move, but its power was shocking. Knowing that the person in front of him was powerful, Aolai did not hold back anymore. He released all of his power, and suddenly, the skyrock evil image appeared. It flapped its wings, and the wind was like a blade, tearing the surrounding space apart. Ningchen's eyes narrowed as he executed a strange footwork. His figure flashed in the wind as he dodged one wind blade after another. Rip! The sound of clothes tearing rang out. A wind blade sliced across Ningchen's arm, tearing his clothes apart. And Ningchen frowned slightly. His figure flashed, and he left the battlefield. He waved his right hand, and a black light spread out. In the black light, a long and narrow black blade appeared. In an instant, an astonishing baleful aura filled the air, and its ferocious might shook the sky. Quanggu reappeared, and the murderous weapon refined from the bones of ancient ferocious beasts shone brightly. In an instant, the black blade slashed down, and the wind collapsed. Ningchen's figure moved again, and in an instant, the black blade slashed down, and his killing intent filled the sky. Aolai's halberd met the attack. In an ear-piercing collision, the wind and clouds gathered above the two. The powerful aura could not be withstood by the heaven and earth. The entire sky split apart, and the scene was extremely shocking. In the blink of an eye, they exchanged several moves. The sky-rock evil image was extremely fast, and each move was fast and fierce. Facing the storm of attacks, Ningchen's expression gradually turned serious. In the shocking battle, both sides did not show any mercy, and each move was to kill, chasing after the soul. After 10 moves, Aolai's expression turned even more serious. He shouted, and the skyrock evil image opened its huge mouth. Suddenly, a terrifying suction force spread out, as if it wanted to swallow the opponent in front of it. Ningchen's eyes narrowed. He flipped his palm, and the cold air spread out. In the wind and snow, several huge stars appeared, and the god's scroll appeared again. The surrounding sky instantly sank. God's sky dance. With a move that shook the heavens, a meteor fell to the mortal world. Under the stars, her white clothes fluttered, as if she was a god dancing among the stars. With a move that shook the heavens, the situation of the battle changed. The stars descended, and the sky rock devoured the sky. The two moves collided, and a terrifying vibration shook the entire wasteland. The violent aftershock continued to spread out, destroying everything within 1,000 miles. Outside the battle, Dongyu and Summer Solstice were shocked. They immediately retreated dozens of miles to avoid the aftershock of the battle. In the center of the battle, sand filled the air. The two moves clashed, and the winner was obvious. Aolai spat out blood from his mouth, and he retreated a few steps. After gaining the upper hand with one move, Ningchen did not stop. He took a step forward and rushed forward again. Wild Bone split the air, and a merciless blade came for his life. Under the blade light, Aolai barely managed to stabilize his body. He raised his left hand and grabbed Wild Bone's blade. Caught you! The sky rock's claws were indestructible. Aolai stopped the weapon in front of him, and his right hand let go of the halberd. He condensed his energy into a claw and tore at Ningchen's chest. The move Sky Split was indestructible. A deep black gully appeared in the space between the two. The killing move arrived instantly, and the yellow springs opened the way. When the claw arrived, Ningchen did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. A cold light flashed in the corner of his mouth. He let go of the blade, and as their bodies crossed, his heavy fist condensed into frost and landed on Aolai's chest. Ugh! With a muffled groan, Aolai's figure flew out 100 feet. He stomped his foot and stopped his retreat. 100 feet away, Ningchen looked at the rock young master in front of him. He clenched his right hand, and Wild Bone flew back to him. The Skyrock's speed is just SOSO. Killing intent appeared in Ning Chen's eyes for the first time. The person in front of him was a disaster. He had to get rid of him as soon as possible to avoid trouble in the future. Thinking of this, Ning Chen took a step forward. A stream of light flashed, and the battle started again. The blade light covered the eyes, and the battle technique changed abruptly. In the blink of an eye, Ning Chen's body was engulfed by wind and snow. Aolai saw this, and his expression changed slightly. His figure flashed, wanting to avoid the blade light. "You can't retreat." Ning Chen snorted coldly. The blade in his hand pierced the ground. Suddenly, the ground turned over, and blade light broke through the sky, cutting off the former's retreat. Aolai's figure kept moving in the blade light that soared into the sky. He waved his halberd, and cut down the blade light one after another. Ning Chen's body moved, and the blade light was extremely sharp. A move that he had never used before appeared for the first time in the primordial demon realm. Killing a strong enemy. Through the ages, it will be the only one in 100 generations. A blade in spring and autumn, a beauty that can topple cities. The butterfly martial arts, a legend of the blade. It was the pinnacle of the technique. It cut open heaven and earth. Wildbone hummed, and it quickly absorbed the blade light between heaven and earth. In the next moment, Wildbone slashed the sky, and a blade that could topple cities. The blade light fell, and within 1,000 miles, it was like the end of the world. The sky was destroyed, the city was toppled, and the mountains and rivers were shattered. In the wind and rain, Aolai's pupils shrank fiercely. He forcefully activated his body, and the heavenly rock evil image roared to the sky, and merged into his body. The halberd broke through the sky, and 100 feet long halberd light pierced through heaven and earth. It met the blade light that was slashing down from the sky. The blade and halberd's final move collided. After a short silence, a terrifying aftershock exploded. In the aftershock that could destroy heaven and earth, 1,000 miles instantly collapsed. A painful groan sounded. The heavenly rock's wings were broken, and Aolai's figure flew out a few hundred feet before crashing into the ground. In the violent sand, a white-clothed figure walked out. He stepped forward, and the black blade in his hand did not stop even because of the outcome of the battle. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. He understood this simple principle better than anyone else. He took a step forward, and his figure arrived in front of Aolai in an instant. Ning Chen's wild bone slashed down, and it went through Aolai's throat. At this moment on the ground, the severely injured and dying Aolai suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying power that surpassed the treading immortal realm burst out, shocking the wind and clouds. Seeing this, Ning Chen's figure quickly retreated, and in an instant, he was 1,000 feet away. King. Looking at the figure standing up in front of him, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. This was not the aura of the young master of the Rock Clan. The difference was too great. Young man, when it's possible to make mistakes, one should forgive them. Aolai opened his mouth, and an old voice came out, saying lightly, "You are the Rock King?" Ning Chen looked at the person in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "The juniors nowadays are really amazing." The Rock King's face was filled with emotion. He raised his right hand, and in an instant, the wind and clouds changed color. A terrifying pressure descended, tearing the void apart. With the arrival of danger, Ning Chen did not hesitate and immediately retreated 1,000 feet. He did not take it head-on. Failing to kill the young man in front of him, the Rock King's eyes flashed with regret. He said, "Young man, that's all for today. See you again." As he spoke, the heavenly rock spread its wings, and a huge evil image carried the young master of the Rock Clan and soared into the sky. Seeing the former leave, Ning Chen's expression darkened. He still let him escape. He did not expect that Aolai's body would have part of the Rock King's power. This Rock King really put in a lot of effort. It seemed that he and the young master of the Rock Clan were destined to meet again. "Young master." After the battle ended, Dongyu and Xiaji rushed over. Their faces were filled with worry. "I'm fine. Let's continue on our way." Ning Chen smiled and replied. Then he continued to walk forward. "Young master, what happened just now?" Xiaji quickly walked a few steps to catch up and asked in confusion. The young one couldn't beat the old one, so the old one came out. The aura just now should be the Rock King, Ningchen said with a smile. The Rock King? Xiaji was shocked when she heard this. The Rock King who was almost comparable to a ruler? That's young master. Xiaji came back to her senses and said in disbelief, Young master. You want to ask why he didn't kill me, right? Ningchen looked at the woman beside him and asked. Xiaji nodded. The Rock King's strength was well known in the world. Even compared to a ruler, he was very terrifying. He does want to kill me, but he can't do it now. Ningchen looked into the distance and said with a solemn expression, Everyone's body has a limit. The Rock King can't have left too much power in Aolai's body. Otherwise, before he can kill the enemy, Aolai's body might explode because it can't withstand this power. Chapter 1005. At dawn, the sun shone on the eastern horizon, and the warm sunlight dispelled the cold of the night. The three of them traveled through the wilderness without resting for the entire night, quickly rushing towards the ancient desolate plains. The road ahead was long, and the three of them did not delay any longer. They traveled faster and faster, and passers-by only saw 3 streaks of light flash before disappearing from sight. After traveling for several days, the three of them walked out of the eastern continent. Further ahead was the central continent, where the 100 races competed. It was the most powerful region in the entire Primal Secret Realm, and the legendary Celestial Demon Clan was there. They ruled the world, and no one dared to challenge them. In front of the central continent, a huge mountain range stretched for tens of thousands of miles, like a natural boundary, separating the eastern continent and the central continent. Ningchen stopped in front of the Two-World Mountain, and looked at the majestic mountain range in front of him with a strange expression. What a huge mountain range! He had never seen such a huge mountain range, whether in the sky beyond heaven or the inner world. It's so high. Can we fly over? Xiaji looked at the Two-World Mountain and asked. No. Dongyu shook his head and said. In the Two-World Mountain, legend has it that there are ferocious beasts of the Red Dust Realm, and even the king level. If we rashly fly over and attract the attention of these ferocious beasts, the consequences will be unimaginable. Then what should we do? But if we crawl over, how long will it take? Xiaji said worriedly. There's still some time before the 100 races competition. There's no hurry. Ningchen looked at the mountain range in front of him and said with a smile. I'd rather walk a few more steps than be eaten by those king-level ferocious beasts, right? Xiaji nodded weakly and said, That's the only way. Let's go. Ningchen said with a smile, and then walked towards the mountain range in front of him. Dongyu pulled the listless summer solstice and quickly followed up. The mighty mountain range was as tall as the clouds, and the mountains were one after another, as if they could never reach the end. After 2 days and 1 night, the three of them crossed several mountains, and found that there was still a mountain range in front of them, and there was no way out. Ah! Xiaji stood in the mountains and stomped her feet in annoyance, unwilling to continue walking. Ningchen turned back and looked at his grandaunt who was throwing a tantrum. He smiled and said, What, you can't walk? Xiaji, don't mess around. We have to hurry up. Dongyu scolded softly. How long are we going to walk for? Are we lost? Why haven't we walked out yet? Summer Solstice looked at the mountains that were almost exactly the same, and said in an extremely bad mood. We should be halfway there. How about I carry you on my back? Ningchen smiled. No. Without waiting for Xiaji to answer, Dongyu immediately denied it. She looked at her sister and scolded. Hurry up, you are tired, and the young master is even more tired to open the way for us. Don't mess around anymore. Xiaji answered unhappily and took a few steps forward. Her beautiful little face was full of reluctance. A smile appeared on Ningchen's face. He swept the surrounding mountain range with his gaze and said, All right, if you don't want to leave, then don't leave. It's getting late. Let's rest here tonight and continue our journey tomorrow morning. All right. Xiaji hurriedly nodded. Young master. Dongyu's eyes were filled with worry as she said, It's too dangerous here. We should leave as soon as possible. It's fine. Ningchen looked at the surrounding mountain range and said, We should be in the center of the two-world mountain now. It's getting dark soon and ferocious beasts appear at night. It's even more dangerous to continue our journey now. Let's rest here tonight. There's no rush. Dong Yu heard it, and thought for a while before nodding gently. Seeing that both of them agreed to rest, Xia Zhi's face was filled with joy. She immediately sat down, and was willing to take another step. It's cold in the mountains at night. Pick up some dry wood and make a fire. It will warm you up a little. Ningchen picked up the dry wood on the ground and threw it to Xia Zhi, who was still sitting on the ground. He smiled and said, "Ancestor, do you know how to make a fire?" "Yes." Xia Zhi giggled. She took out a lighter from her chest and lit the dry grass on the ground. Then she put the dry wood on the fire. Dong Yu helplessly glanced at her sister and didn't say anything. The two of them picked up a lot of dry wood and piled it on the ground. Night fell and the entire two-world mountain quickly darkened. In the pitch-black night, the bonfire flickered and became the only light in the night. The three of them stayed by the bonfire and felt the warmth of the fire. The fatigue from the days of traveling also disappeared a lot. Whoa! In the distant mountains, the howls of wolves rose and fell. Under the night, it was very creepy. Xia Zhi shrank her body and subconsciously moved closer to the man beside her. When she could feel the warmth of the latter's body, her heart calmed down a little. "Young master, the king said that you are a human. Can you tell me the story of the human race?" Xia Zhi looked at the man beside her and asked softly. "Story?" Ningchen raised his head and looked at the woman beside him. He smiled and said, "All right, let me tell you a mythical story called The Legend of the White Snake. Once upon a time in the central region, there was a primitive land. There was a demon immortal named Bai Yunlian. After cultivating for 1,000 years, she turned into a human. She was very beautiful, especially her eyes." In front of the bonfire, Dong Yu sat there and fell asleep. After being nervous for an entire night, her mind finally couldn't take it anymore. Looking at the two girls sleeping, Ningchen sat quietly in front of the bonfire. From time to time, he would add some dry wood to the bonfire to make it warmer. In the east, the first rays of the morning sun shone down. Under the morning sun, it was a bit dazzling. Xia Zhi rubbed her eyes and sat there in a daze, staring blankly. In front of her, Dong Yu also woke up. She quickly regained her senses and looked at the person in front of her. "Are we going to hurry?" "Yes." Ningchen nodded lightly. "This place isn't safe after all. We should leave early and try to get out of here before nightfall." "Okay." Dong Yu answered softly and immediately got up. She extinguished the bonfire in front of her and stepped forward to pull up Xia Zhi, who was still in a daze, and said, "Let's go." Ningchen nodded his head and set off. He strode forward. Dong Yu pulled Xia Zhi and followed. Her divine sense was on alert, vigilant of any possible danger that could appear at any time. The three of them sped up, wanting to get out of the mountain range before nightfall. In the mountains, the three figures flashed and quickly disappeared into the depths of the forest. Roar! At this moment, in the distance, the earth-shattering beast roar sounded again. The beast tide rushed madly in this direction. Seeing this, Ningchen's expression changed slightly. In the depths of the mountain range, in the forbidden area, a man in black held a long spear and fought alone with a 9-headed lion. The aftermath of the battle destroyed everything around. The 9-headed lion was as huge as a small mountain. Each lion head represented a kind of attribute. When the 9 heads moved together, the mountain shook and the earth shook. However, the man in black's expression didn't change at all. The black spear in his hand was extremely sharp. In a few moves, he suppressed the 9-headed lion and had the absolute upper hand. In the distance, Ningchen felt the great battle in the distance. His expression turned serious. He glanced at the two women behind him and said, "Follow me closely and be careful." Up ahead, hundreds of beasts were startled and rushed over like a tide. Wherever the tide of beasts passed, the vegetation and mountains were all destroyed. The horns of the vicious beasts, which were several zhang tall, smashed apart huge trees one after another. They were invincible. Ningchen looked at the ferocious beast tied in front of him. His eyes were full of seriousness. They were really unlucky to have suffered such an unexpected disaster. However, compared to them, These ferocious beasts were even more unlucky. Ningchen unsheathed his black saber and a murderous aura surged. He stood still and held the saber in his right hand. The saber spun and filled the sky with wind and snow. In the next moment, the black light fell. In the rumbling, a shocking scene occurred. In front of them, the earth cracked and a huge gully appeared. The saber could destroy a city and directly cut open the forest. Chapter 1006. In the two-world mountain the beast tide surged. In front, Ningchen pulled out his sword and slashed the sky. A huge ravine appeared, blocking the path of the beast tide. Hundreds of beasts galloped past. In front of them, the ferocious beasts that were like small hills saw the huge gully in front of them and wanted to stop, but they were directly knocked away by the torrent of ferocious beasts behind them. With a boom, the beast crashed into the ground, raising a cloud of dust that blocked the view. Behind it, the beast tide rushed forward. Before they could react, the ravine was already in front of them. In a shocking scene, the beast tide rushed into the ravine. Their terrified roars shook the heavens and earth, echoing for hundreds of miles. In the depths of the two-world mountain, the black-robed man sensed something. He looked into the distance and narrowed his eyes. What a strange feeling! Was there someone of the same race nearby? Roar! In front, the nine-headed lion roared at the sky. Its four heads opened at the same time, and water, fire, wind, and thunder surged out. A terrifying might pressed down on the black-robed man. Xianzhan retracted his gaze and waved his black spear, forcibly shaking off the four essences' might. Submit or die. It was a blatant threat. Xianzhan stared coldly at the nine-headed lion, and said coldly, "Don't even think about it." The nine-headed lion said. Its 9 pairs of eyes stared at the black-robed man in front of it. Its anger reached the heavens. Its 4 hooves stepped into the air and charged at the person in front of it. "You overestimate yourself," Xianzhan said coldly. His figure flashed, and instead of retreating he advanced. He arrived in front of the nine-headed lion in an instant. He raised his left hand and slammed it down on one of the lion's heads. A terrifying force erupted, and the nine-headed lion's body trembled. Unable to withstand the force, it smashed into the ground with a loud thud. Its huge body crushed a mountain peak, and huge rocks tumbled down. Waves of sand swept up, and the remaining power was shocking. "I'll ask you one last time. Submit or die," Xianzhan said coldly as he landed and stepped on one of the nine-headed lion's heads. 1,000 miles away, the terrifying beast tide was buried in the ravine. Ningchen looked into the distance. After a while he said, "Xie Dongyu, let's go quickly." After that, Ningchen retracted his consciousness. His figure flashed, stepping into the ravine and rushing forward. Dongyu and Summer Solstice looked surprised. They didn't understand what was going on, but they immediately followed him. The streak of light flashed past and disappeared into the depths of the forest. Its speed was so fast that it was hard to see it clearly. At the very front, Ningchen no longer held back and rushed out of the mountain range at full speed. Not long after the 3 of them left, a black light gathered in front of the abyss where the beast tide was buried. A black-clothed figure walked out. Looking at the forest that had been cut open, a strange light flashed in his eyes. That young man just now gave him a vague feeling of familiarity. Although he concealed it very well, the feeling of being from the same clan couldn't be wrong. That young man had the strength of the Celestial Demon clan. There were plenty of celestial fiends who were close to the Red Dust realm, but it was rare to see someone so young with such cultivation. Since when did the Celestial Fiend clan have such a young peerless genius? It seemed that the clan had changed quite a bit in the years he had been away. Thinking of this, Xianzhan stepped forward, turned around and flew out of Two-World Mountain. At the edge of the Two-World Mountain, 3 silhouettes sped past. The silhouette in front was dressed in plain clothes. Wind and snow swirled around his body. His valiant aura could intimidate hundreds of beasts. "Dongyu, what happened to the young master?" Behind them, Xie asked as she struggled to keep up with the former speed. "I'm not sure," Dongyu replied. Looking ahead, she said seriously, "Don't ask too much. The young master must have his reasons for leaving in such a hurry." "Okay," Xia Ji replied softly. She didn't say anything else and focused on hurrying along. Behind them, the black-clothed figure walked forward. He seemed to be moving casually, but his speed was unusually fast. The feeling of being from the same clan was getting clearer and clearer. In front, Ning Chen's eyes became more and more serious. Looking at the two behind him, he said, "Let's split up. I'll find you in the future." With that, Ning Chen turned around and rushed towards the southwest. Seeing this, Xia Ji looked anxious. Just as she was about to say something, Dongyu pulled her over and rushed in the opposite direction to the west. "Dongyu," Xia Ji hurriedly said, "what happened? There are people behind us. We can't be a burden to the young master." Dongyu replied. Green light rose behind her as she spread her wings and carried the two of them forward quickly. Xia Ji turned around and looked behind her. Her face was anxious. The powerful aura was getting clearer and clearer. It was abnormally terrifying. It was not inferior to the Rock King from before. "Dongyu, don't pull me. I'll go help the young master." Xia Ji struggled with all her strength, trying to get out of the former's hands. Dongyu's expression darkened. She didn't say a word. Her slender hands were like iron chains clasping her meridians as she moved forward quickly. In the southwest direction, the white-clothed figure flashed and disappeared. Her speed was getting faster and faster. Even though he had lost his phoenix body, he had the forbidden of the underworld. Ning Chen's understanding of the spatial laws was not inferior to anyone. With every step he took, the void shook violently. So close yet so far, so close. Behind them, the black-clothed figure chased quickly. In the blink of an eye, his speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, one was chasing and the other was chasing. Was it fast or was it fast? Both of their hearts were in turmoil as they marveled at each other's unexpected speed. Boom. At this moment, an earth-shattering collision sounded in the distance. It was so terrifying that even though it was nearly 10,000 miles away, it could still be clearly felt. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. Without any hesitation, he rushed towards the direction of the collision. 7,000 miles to the west of the Dual World Mountain, there was a huge dragon-shaped mountain range. In front of the mountain range, there were war chariots in the sky. On each war chariot, there was an unusually powerful figure standing quietly. His aura was majestic like an abyss. The powerful existences of the mortal realm and the king realm stood in the sky. Above them, the divine artifacts were dazzling. The treasures of their respective clans were displaying their abilities. On the Dragon Emperor Mountain, dense mist flowed. The attacks of many experts were all blocked. It was difficult to pass through the barrier. Still can't break it. On a war chariot, a king realm expert gazed ahead with a gloomy gaze. If this was included, it was already the third time they'd come here. The restrictions on Dragon Emperor Mountain were truly too formidable. This time, they'd even brought an ancestral artifact with them, yet they were actually unable to break through it. At this moment, King Dun's expression froze. He turned around and looked towards the east. His eyes flashed coldly. At the same time, everyone on the war chariot sensed something and looked towards the east. In the direction of the Dual World Mountain in the east, wind and snow swept. A plain-clothed figure walked on the snow. Although he hadn't entered the mortal realm, his aura was close to the 4th level. What a powerful young man. King Dun looked at the newcomer with a strange look in his eyes. Boom! At this moment, the space behind him collapsed. A black-clothed figure walked out of the space. The extremely powerful aura caused the entire world to tremble. The Heavenly Demon Clan. In front of the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the Mortal Realm and King Realm experts were shocked. Why would the king of the Heavenly Demon Clan appear here? Among the crowd, Ning Chen glanced at the King Realm experts and the post-celestial Demon King in front of him. A cold smile flashed across the corner of his mouth. He took a step forward and continued to rush forward. Behind him, Xianzhan looked at the experts in front of him and frowned. He didn't chase after them. His figure faded and disappeared. The person just now was Zhan Wang? King Dun's eyes narrowed. Xianzhan was a peerless genius of the Heavenly Demon Clan 1,000 years ago. Although his cultivation time was much shorter than theirs, he was extremely powerful. Who was the young man who was being chased by Zhan Wang? King Dun looked at the plainclothed young man in the distance. This young man was indeed extraordinary to be able to escape from Zhan Wang. In the distance, Ningchen stopped and looked at the King Realm experts and Mortal Realm experts who were looking at him. He smiled and said, "Thank you, seniors." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningchen took a step forward and leaped into the distance. In front of the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the Mortal Realm and King Realm experts retracted their thoughts and looked at the Dragon Emperor Mountain again with a solemn expression. The entrance to the Dragon Emperor Mountain only appeared once every few hundred years. If they missed this opportunity, they didn't know how long they would have to wait. Summon the Emperor weapon. King Dun glanced at the 3 Mortal Realm experts behind him and said, "Yes." The 3 Red Dust Realm powerhouses bowed respectfully and immediately summoned their imperial artifacts. In the next moment, thunderclouds appeared in the sky. Amidst the shocking tremors, a purple-gold divine furnace appeared in the sky. Its terrifying power suppressed the heavens and made all living beings cry out in grief. As soon as the divine furnace appeared, it fell rapidly and crashed into the Dragon Emperor Mountain. After a short moment of silence, a terrifying tremor sounded, and the entire Dragon Emperor Mountain began to shake. In the distance, a plain-clothed figure stood in the air with her aura restrained. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she looked at the various races attacking the Dragon Emperor Mountain. So many Mortal Realm experts and King Realm experts had appeared here together. It seemed that there was something extraordinary in this mountain. The divine furnace fell on the Dragon Emperor Mountain, causing the mountain to shake violently. Cracks appeared one after another, and the entrance was about to be broken open. Suddenly, a golden light shone from the mountain, and the cracks were quickly repaired. Work together to break it. Otherwise, none of us will be able to enter. King Dun glanced at the King Realm experts nearby and said in a deep voice. On the chariots, the King Realm experts pondered for a moment and nodded. Okay. As soon as they finished speaking, the King Realm experts flashed and arrived beside King Dun. They used all their strength to activate the purple gold divine furnace, and crashed into the Dragon Emperor Mountain again. Boom! Amidst the shocking collision, the mountain that blocked the entrance of the Dragon Emperor Mountain cracked again, and the cracks spread all the way to the end of the mountain. The King Realm experts worked together and used their Emperor weapons. The mountain that blocked the entrance of the Dragon Emperor Mountain collapsed, and huge craters appeared one after another. It's finally broken. Seeing the exit, the King Realm experts were overjoyed. They did not dare to delay any longer and rushed forward. The Dragon Emperor Mountain had a mysterious power. Every time the mountain was damaged, it would quickly repair itself. They had to hurry. However, no one had expected that at this moment, a golden divine sword would appear in the sky above the Dragon Emperor Mountain. Its terrifying aura was enough to make gods and demons crawl. A moment later, the divine sword slashed down, and the whole world shook. The sword light flashed, and everything was destroyed. At the front, a King Realm expert did not have time to react, and was slashed open by the divine sword light. Blood spurted into the sky and dyed the sky red. Chapter 1007. In front of the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the divine sword killed a king. Blood splattered everywhere as a king died. He didn't even have the chance to fight back. It was a shocking scene. All the kings were shocked. They immediately stopped and didn't dare to move forward. In the void, the divine sword was floating. It was unclear whether it was real or not, but it was extremely sharp. Shocking sword chi was constantly emitted from the divine sword. Gods and demons avoided it, not daring to touch it. In front of the mountain, the kings looked at the divine sword in the sky with shock. The Dragon Emperor sword that had been lost for countless years, was actually in the Dragon Emperor Mountain. Let's work together and defeat it. King Dun summoned his violet gold divine furnace, and said in a deep voice. All the kings nodded at the same time. They raised their hands and condensed Yuan Qi. Vigorous energy rose and entered the Emperor weapon. In an instant, the purple flames in the violet gold divine furnace burned brightly. The weapon spirit in the furnace quickly awakened. An Emperor realm aura descended. It looked down on the world and suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths. On the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the divine sword sensed the aura and slashed down, colliding with the furnace. The Emperor weapon and the Dragon Emperor sword collided. An earth-shattering sound shook the world. Outside the Dragon Emperor Mountain, huge cracks appeared. They crisscrossed and spread for thousands of miles. Several kings spat out blood. The aftershock of the 2 emperor weapons shook and the kings were severely injured. In the void, the divine sword was dazzling. Its aura was getting stronger and stronger. Countless golden sword chi spread out like a divine sun, illuminating the world. The golden sword chi descended. King Dun and the other kings activated the furnace again. Endless purple flames spread out to resist the Dragon Emperor sword. In the distance, the white-clothed figure stood quietly. She looked at the Dragon Emperor sword that suppressed the kings in the void. As a swordsman, she couldn't hide her sword intent. This sword shouldn't be covered in dust here. Buzz. On the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the Dragon Emperor divine sword sensed the sword intent from afar. The sword hummed and a golden sword chi broke through the void and flew into the distance. 1,000 miles away, the wind and snow were blowing. Ningchen glanced at the sword chi and flashed. He was 1,000 feet away. The sword chi arrived and with a boom, the entire mountain behind him was razed to the ground. Huge rocks flew everywhere and fell like rain. Retreat! In front of the Dragon Monarch Mountain, the kings caught a glimpse of an opportunity. They didn't dare to delay any longer and quickly retreated. In the next moment, the battlefield rumbled as streaks of light streaked across the sky. The kings and dozens of Red Dust Realm warriors left, planning to make plans in the future. Everyone left. On the Dragon Monarch Mountain, the divine sword's shadow slowly disappeared. A strange light rose, and the collapsed mountain was once again rebuilt. Not long after, it was restored to its original state. 1,000 miles away, Ningchen took a step forward. He was so close yet so far away, and he arrived in midair. Buzz. Inside the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the Dragon Emperor Godly Sword sensed something. In the void, the Godly Sword's shadow appeared and floated quietly in the air. Its power was extremely shocking. "I don't mean any harm," Ningchen said calmly as he looked at the floating divine sword. As soon as he finished speaking, the trembling of the divine sword in the sky above the Dragon Monarch Mountain slowed down a little. However, the pressure from the sword was still terrifying, causing people's hearts to palpitate. The aura of the sword was lonely and arrogant. Even after countless years, the arrogance of the divine sword had not changed at all. An unusually clear dragon chi permeated the sword. The Dragon Emperor sword was a divine weapon famous in ancient times. After hundreds of thousands of years, only a few people knew about it except for a few big clans. Ningchen stood in front of the mountain and felt the aura of the sword. Although he did not know the name of the divine sword, he could clearly feel the dragon chi on the sword. Dragon. Looking at the dragon pattern on the sword, Ningchen's eyes revealed a strange expression. Because of the memories of his previous life, he had always had a special feeling about the existence of dragons. In myths and legends, dragons, phoenixes, and cheilants were the heads of the 4 seas water race, the bird race, and the beast race respectively. However, myths and legends were always different. The legends about dragons were also strange and different. In the Green Coffin in the Eastern Celestial World, he had seen the ancient battle where Pluto killed the 4 symbols deities. That was the first time he saw the shadow of a dragon. As the head of the 4 symbols deities, Azure Dragon's strength was unquestionable. It was rumored that there were also 4 symbols deities in the sky beyond heaven. However, as time passed, the 4 symbols deities had disappeared from this world and were difficult to find. The second time he saw a dragon was in the Sea Region Temple south of the Southern Tomb in the inner world. The water god Tian Wu was the god formed by the dragon pearl after Azure Dragon fell. Now seeing such a powerful dragon chi again, it was even more shocking. Without a doubt, there was a supreme treasure left behind by the dragon clan in this mountain range. Otherwise, it would be impossible to block the attacks of the kings. On the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the aura of the man and sword facing each other gradually calmed down. The Dragon Emperor sword floated in the void and circulated its aura. It no longer attacked, but it also didn't withdraw its sword pressure. Ningchen looked at the divine sword in the sky and said calmly, "In the past few years, the 100 races have flourished. Kings have emerged in large numbers, and several emperors have even ruled the world. However, the leaders of the 3 ancestors of the 4 seas, birds and beasts have all withered away. Don't you have any regrets?" On the mountain range, the divine sword floated up and down, and the sword aura circulated. It was so quiet that it was a bit scary. Now, the phoenix has descendants, and the beast race has an emperor of the golden lion race. They are infinitely close to returning to their ancestors and reproducing the might of the Qilin. Only the dragon clan has never had a descendant and gradually disappeared from the memory of the 100 races. Don't you feel unsatisfied? Ningchen asked again. In the void, the aura of the dragon emperor sword became deeper and deeper. The sword's aura could be heard clearly. Now Biyin and the Tian sword have appeared, and the divine weapons of the other 100 races have also appeared. You have even seen the imperial weapon just now. Do you still want to stay here and continue to be covered in dust? Ningchen's expression darkened. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, the dragon emperor sword shone brightly. A golden sword qi broke through the void and slashed down with terrifying power. It cut open the void and went against everything. As the sword qi came, Ningchen waved his hand and a broken green cauldron appeared. The indestructible relic of the Eastern Celestial Realm blocked the dragon god sword. The sword qi was blocked, but the aftermath shook. Ningchen turned his palm to meet it. With a bang, he was pushed dozens of feet away. Drip. A smear of red slid down. Ningchen raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. His determined eyes did not waver at all. The disappearance of the dragon clan is a fact. How long are you going to guard this tomb? In the Outland, the immortal slaying sword, immortal slaying sword, immortal slaying sword, and immortal trapping sword have all appeared. Don't you want to compete with them? Ningchen looked at the divine sword in the void, and said with a heavy tone. Buzz. In the sky above the mountain range, the divine sword hummed again. This time, its power was stronger than before. The golden sword qi broke through the mountains and the sea fell. With a loud bang, Ningchen used the green cauldron to block the sword qi again. The aftermath spread out, and he was pushed dozens of feet away. Drops of blood stained the ground below. Ningchen's expression did not change at all. He said in a low voice, "If your master did not want you to appear in the world again, he would not have made this arrangement." The child looked at the man below and said coldly. Then he raised his right hand. The golden light was extremely bright. The sword pressure was majestic like 1,000 waves. With a rumble, the ground under Ningchen's feet sank again. The terrifying sword pressure was as heavy as a mountain. It was difficult for his body to bear it. The wind and snow surged. The power of the 5 scrolls was endless. His peerless foundation blocked the pressure of the dragon emperor sword. The swordsman was proud and did not yield. The surging blood dyed his white clothes red again and again. In the terrifying golden light, Ningchen stood coldly. He looked at the divine sword in the void and refused to back down. In his Dantian Sea of Qi, the ocean rolled. In the center of the cyclone formed by the 5 scrolls of heavenly books, the origin sword floated up and down. After dozens of years of nurturing the sword with the origin of the divine tree, the cracks on the sword gradually healed. It shed its mortal body and became sharp. The origin sword trembled. It sensed the danger of its master and automatically asked to fight. "It's not time yet." The divine sword asked to fight. Its voice was deafening. Ningchen's expression was indifferent as he refused. The 10-year period was not up yet. He could not use his sword. In the void, the power of the dragon emperor sword was earth-shattering. Before the sword light appeared, the sword pressure changed the color of the whole world. In the battle between man and sword, each of them insisted. Around the dragon emperor mountain, the world collapsed. The mountains shook and the void sank. Chapter 1008. In front of the Dragon Emperor Mountain, Sui stood proudly. Wind and snow swirled around her, blocking the pressure of the divine sword. In the void, the sword spirit took form. The anger in the eyes of an 11 or 12-year-old child could not be concealed. He wanted to suppress the swordsman in front of him. The battle between man and sword was a battle of pride. Although there was no killing, it was still extremely dangerous. Why don't you use your sword? Do you think I won't kill you if you don't use your sword? The anger in the child's eyes burned more and more as he shouted. Boom! The golden light was like a wave, and the sword pressure was even stronger. Below, the ground under Ning Chun was constantly collapsing. Vermilion red sprinkled down, and it was extremely beautiful. No one can take my life and neither can you. With a light shout, the demonic aura around Ning Chun surged. 100 feet tall demonic figure appeared behind him. It stood tall, and it withstood the increasing sword pressure. Royal Heavenly Demon. The child's eyes narrowed. The purity of this bloodline was definitely royal. This person was clearly a human, so why did he have the bloodline and power of a royal heavenly demon? The heavenly demon appeared. Far away, the void swirled, and a black-clothed figure walked out. He looked back in the direction of the Dragon Emperor Mountain, and his expression darkened. Royal, he was actually a descendant of a royal. Without thinking, Xianzhan's figure flashed, and he quickly went back the way he came. In front of the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the two bodies of knowing destiny appeared at the same time. The power of the royal heavenly demon converged into the 5 scrolls of the heavenly book. The void swirled, and it was the beginning of the martial arts. The chaos opened the sky, and the heavenly demon descended. A shocking phenomenon fell in the sky. The heavenly demon moved together, and they worked together to resist the sky. The heavenly demon dance, and the heavenly demon reincarnation. The power of the heavenly demon was earth-shattering, and it forcefully opened a pure land in the golden light. In the sky above the Dragon Emperor Mountain, the child looked at the heavenly demon in front of him, and his eyes were even more shocked. The heavenly demon and the heavenly demon in the same body. This human had the power of a god. Waving his hand to disperse the sword pressure, the child suppressed the emotions in his eyes and said, I won't kill you. You can leave. Feeling the sword pressure between heaven and earth disappear, Ning Chun also withdrew his dual body technique and said calmly, Are you really willing to stay here forever? Your master didn't completely seal this mountain. You should know better than me what his intentions are. My business is none of your business. Human, if you don't enter the red dust realm, you will never have the chance to stand on equal footing with the 100 races. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden light around the child dissipated and gradually disappeared. Since you've chatted with me for so long, I'll give you this sword seal. In the end, his voice faded into the air. In the air, a small golden sword fell down. It was about the size of a palm, but it had an unbearable sword pressure. Ning Chun looked at the golden sword seal in front of him. Light flashed in his eyes as he raised his right hand and caught the sword seal. As soon as Zhang Xian came into contact with the sword seal swiftly sank into Zhang Xian's body before vanishing without a trace. In the next moment, a golden mark appeared on Ning Chun's right arm. It was like a tattoo, and there was nothing unusual about it. Ning Chun tried to summon it a few times, but there was no response from the sword seal. Ning Chun frowned, but there was nothing he could do. He knew very well that the Dragon Clan's divine sword had no killing intent towards him. Otherwise, it would not be easy for him to escape unscathed today. The sword had a sword aura. He could feel the loneliness of the Dragon Clan's divine sword. Burying a famed sword was the cruelest thing in the world. At this moment, a familiar feeling came from behind him. Ning Chun narrowed his eyes and looked back. Coldness flashed through his eyes. There really was no end to it. Taking a step forward, Ning Chun's figure disappeared. He left the Dragon Emperor Mountain. Soon, the space in front of the Dragon Emperor Mountain churned and Xianzhan walked out. Looking at the collapsed ground, he frowned. Looking into the distance, Xianzhan stepped forward and merged into the space again. A few days later, 100,000 miles away, Xianzhan's figure appeared. She released her consciousness and only let out a sigh of relief after sensing for a long time. The king of the Celestial Devil clan finally stopped chasing. It was still too early for him to face a king-level cultivator. Dong Yu Xiaji. With the trouble gone, Ning Chun finally thought of the two girls. He could not help but feel a headache. Where was he going to find them after being separated for so long? After thinking for a long time, he still could not come up with a good idea. Ningchen looked ahead and dismissed his thoughts. Right now, he could only continue on his way. The final destination of the two girls was the ancient desolate plains. As long as he could get there, he would have a chance to find them. After being delayed for so many days, there was not much time left. Ningchen did not think too much, and continued towards the ancient desolate plains. 3 months later, Ningchen arrived in front of the ancient desolate plains. Up ahead, there was less than a month's journey to the ancient desolate plains. Most of the prodigies of the various races had already arrived in the city, and were resting for the time being. Ningchen entered the city. Practically everyone from the 100 races could be seen in the city. Whether it was the original inhabitants of the city or the prodigies from the various races, they all began to look forward to the competition of the 100 races. This was a grand event. There were not many things that could make the 100 races take it so seriously. Therefore, the competition of the 100 races this time was very meaningful. It was said that a king would personally come to the competition of the 100 races to deter those with ulterior motives. Inside the city, people came and went. It was abnormally lively. In the depths of the ancient city, a valiant aura was faintly discernible. Divine senses constantly scanned the area. Clearly, a king-level powerhouse had received orders to guard this place. Ningchen walked in the city, wanting to find traces of Dongyu and Xiaji. However, from noon to sunset, he still did not find anything. Are they not here yet? Or have they already left? Ningchen murmured softly. He stopped and looked into the distance. Looking at the people coming and going, a serious look flashed through his eyes. He had promised their mother that he would do his best to protect the two girls along the way. He hoped that he would not disappoint her. In the next dozen days, Ningchen temporarily stayed in the ancient desolate plains to search for traces of Dongyu and Xiaji. However, after half a month, there was still no news of them. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. In the ancient desolate plains, almost all the prodigies of the 100 races had gathered. Many people had already set off for the ancient desolate plains. After waiting for another half a month, Dongyu and Xiaji still did not appear. Ningchen became more and more worried. Every day, he would go to the streets to look for them, hoping to see them. "Young man, are you looking for someone?" On the street, an old woman selling cosmetics looked at the young man in front of her and asked. Hearing the voice behind him, Ningchen turned around. Seeing the old woman behind him, he nodded gently. "Hello, auntie. I'm looking for two girls. A few days ago we got separated. I haven't been able to find them." The old woman sighed softly. "In the past month, I've seen you come and go every day looking for them. You must have lost someone important. Don't worry. Looking at your clothes and temperament, you're definitely not an ordinary person. The two girls you're looking for are probably not ordinary either. They will know how to protect themselves." "Thank you, auntie." Ningchen sighed emotionally when he heard what the old lady had to say. However, it's a special period right now. The young experts of the 100 races have all arrived. Even though those two girls are very strong, I'm still worried about them at a time like this. Young man, even an old woman like me understands this principle. I'm sure you understand as well. Now that the prodigies of the 100 races have all set off for the ancient desolate plains, if you don't move, you'll be one step behind them, said the old woman softly. I understand. Ningchen nodded. The worry on his face was still difficult to conceal. His eyes looked at the bustling ancient city. After a long time he sighed softly. Auntie, I have an appointment. I must set off. If you see the two girls in the future, and are in a hurry to find someone like me, please tell them that I'll be waiting for them at the ancient desolate plains. Okay. The old woman nodded and said, Don't worry and go. I'll be careful. Ningchen took one last glance at the people coming and going in the city. He sighed once more in his heart before turning around and leaving. What an extraordinary young man. The old woman sighed softly as she watched the figure in plain clothes leave. Go Huang, is there something wrong with this person? A young woman walked over from behind the old woman and asked in confusion. There's nothing wrong, the old woman said indifferently. It's just that I saw that this child refused to leave. I was afraid that he would be one step slower than others, so I spoke up to persuade him. The young woman revealed a strange expression, and did not continue on this topic. She said, which should have arrived at the ancient desolate plains by now. For this 100-race competition, the various races have sent out their strongest successors. The several royal families have even sent out their princes and princesses. It seems that the various races are placing great importance on this 100-race competition. This is something that has long been expected. The old woman neatly arranged the rouge powder on the stall and said calmly, the purpose of this 100-race competition is to select the generals who will attack the sky beyond heaven in the future. Every race wants to compete for these positions. The sky beyond heaven has rich resources that the primordial demon realm does not. Every race wants a share of the profits. At this point, the old woman looked at the ancient desolate plains in the distance and continued. In addition, the reason why the 100 race is placing so much importance on this 100 race competition is probably because of that piece of yin-yang non-jade. This is a treasure that we obtained by chance in the alien realm. It has an unimaginable attraction to those peak kings. If not for the fact that the royal families keep each other in check, and the fact that the ownership of this item has always been hard to determine, Duan Ran would not have taken out such a treasure so easily. The woman fell silent. After a long while she said, Go Huang, don't worry. Which will definitely take back the yin-yang non-jade this time, and let the witch race regain its ancient glory. Do your best and leave the rest to fate. The old woman sighed softly and said, You go first. I'll wait here for a few more days. When the two girls that the young man mentioned arrive, I'll go over. Hearing this, the woman opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but she still swallowed the words. She bowed respectfully and accepted the order. Yes. With that, the woman did not say anything else, and turned to walk in the direction of the ancient desolate plains. After the woman left, the old woman collected her thoughts and looked at the passers-by with her weathered eyes. She kept her promise to find the two missing girls. 1 day, 2 days. The old woman waited in front of the rouge powder stall, regardless of the weather. Day after day, she waited for the two people who would appear at any time. Chapter 1009. In the primordial ancient plain, ancient palanquins and beast carriages filled the sky. Powerful auras that blotted out the sky spread for 500 kilometers. The geniuses of the 100 races arrived at the same time, and their auras were shocking. Among the 100 races, a handful of disciples from the large clans stood in the beast carriages. Their gazes were arrogant, and they dominated a region. In the past 100 years, they had rarely met a match. Among the disciples of the large clans, there were even descendants of the royal families. Their temperaments were extraordinary, and their kingly auras appeared. They looked down on the world. Among the kings, a few exceptionally powerful auras spread out. Their tolerance was astonishing, surpassing all the young geniuses. Even among the geniuses of the 100 races, they were exceptionally clear. The royal bloodline had always been the bloodline at the peak of the primordial demon realm, since ancient times. The most outstanding ones were born with the bearing of emperors, and their futures were limitless. The royal family was rare, and the royal family was even rarer. However, every royal family was a true colossus that no one dared to provoke easily. As the time of the 100 races competition approached, the atmosphere in the primordial ancient plain gradually became solemn. The various races attached great importance to the selection of the 100 races to attack the outland. In the distance, a figure in plain clothes walked over. 5 kilometers away, she stood quietly on the spot and looked at the geniuses in the void. After looking for a long time, she still could not find any traces of Dongyu and Xiaji. There was not much time left before the 100 races competition officially began, and Ning Chen's worry grew. Logically speaking, the two girls should have arrived long ago, but why were they still nowhere to be seen? 1 day, 2 days. Day after day, dozens of days and nights passed unknowingly. On the primordial ancient plain, everyone's expressions gradually became solemn. The protectors of the geniuses of the 100 races also left one after another to report back. The competition was about to begin, and everyone began to close their eyes to rest, adjusting their bodies to the best state. 5 kilometers away from the primordial ancient plane, the figure in plain clothes stood quietly. Her body merged with the world, and her aura was almost undetectable. On the last day, the sun set. In the long night, the moon rose and set. In the east, the moment the first ray of dawn shone, an extremely terrifying aura descended from the sky. A majestic and endless pressure swept across the heavens, shocking the gods and Buddhas. This is a ruler. Seeing this, the geniuses of the 100 races were shocked. They looked at the 9 heavens. A ruler had actually come. Let's begin. Above the 9 heavens, auspicious clouds surged as a dignified voice that was neither male nor female resounded throughout the entire ancient desolate plains. As you command. As soon as he finished speaking, 4 figures in ancient clothes walked out from space, and they respectively stood at one end of the ancient desolation plain. Their auras were formidable, and every single one of them was at the king realm. The appearance of the 4 kings at the same time gave the order to open the ancient desolate plains. The prodigies of the 100 races stared nervously at the 4 kings who had appeared in the ancient desolate plains. They had no idea what the competition would be like. This was a decision made by several peak kings and sovereigns. Very few people knew the exact outcome. Among the young geniuses, Jean Lin who was dressed in golden divine clothes, looked at the auspicious clouds in the sky with a strange look in her eyes. Which emperor was this? His aura was somewhat unfamiliar. In the 4 directions of the supreme desolate ancient plains, 4 kings descended and stood in the air. Their hands continuously formed seals as incomparably powerful auras permeated the air. In an instant, the runes in the sky above the supreme desolate ancient plains shone brightly. Numerous strange characters appeared in the air, causing the entire supreme desolate ancient plains to shake violently. What's happening? In the air, the prodigies of the 100 races were shocked as they looked at the constantly changing scenery around them. Their expressions were filled with shock and awe. 10 miles away, Ningchen looked at the scene in front of him and narrowed his eyes. It seemed that this 100 races competition was not as simple as a martial arts competition. In the next instant, the laws of space circulated above the supreme desolate ancient plains. The prodigies of the 100 races disappeared one after another as they were sent into the ancient battlefield. Among the crowd, the airs of the sovereigns were unusually calm as if they already knew what was going to happen here. The prodigies of the 100 races disappeared one by one. Only the 4 kings remained in the air above the ancient plains, forcefully maintaining the opening of the ancient battlefield. Young man, are you not going in? One of the 4 kings asked calmly as he looked at the plain-clothed figure 10 miles away. What is that place? Ningchen looked at the alternate space that had opened in the air and asked. The Blood Moon ancient battlefield. In the sky, the majestic voice sounded again from the rolling auspicious clouds, spreading throughout the alternate space. There are 4 ancient battlefields in the primordial demon realm. The Blood Moon ancient battlefield that you are in is one of them. The next mission is very simple. In 3 years, the person who brings out the most immortal jade from the Blood Moon ancient battlefield will be the champion of this 100 races competition. The shocking voice reverberated inside and outside the alternate space. In the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, the prodigies of the 100 races who had been separated looked up at the sky with grim expressions. In the alternate space where the Blood Moon hung high, the entire sky was blood-red. The moonlight was bone-chilling. Inside the alternate dimension, there were mountains, plains, and rivers. It was a vast and boundless pure land, and everything around it was shockingly red. As one of the 4 ancient battlefields of the primordial demon realm, countless bones and souls had been buried here since the ancient era. At the same time, outside the supreme desolate ancient plains, Ningchen's expression turned grave when he heard the king's voice. 3 years. This 100 races competition would take so long. Until now, the winter rain and summer solstice still hadn't arrived, and this was the thing he was most worried about. If he went in and something happened to those 2 little girls, then he would have really failed their mother. This entrance will only remain open until sunset. "Young man, you'll fall behind those geniuses of the 100 races if you still don't go in." The king that persuaded Ning Chen earlier spoke once more with a serious expression. "Wait a while longer." Ning Chen gazed at the blazing sun in the sky while the depths of his eyes were filled with worry. Where have those two little girls gone? Why aren't they here yet? What's there to wait for? Right at this moment, the king suddenly made a move from above the 9 heavens. An irresistible force descended and grabbed the figure in plain clothes before directly tossing it into the alternate space. The 4 kings around the primordial ancient plains were shocked when they saw this. "Emperor Go, the 100 races competition is voluntary. Your actions seem to be slightly against the rules." One of the kings spoke hastily. "Rules?" The dignified voice resounded from above the 9 heavens, and it said coldly, "Come discuss the rules with me when you've attained the monarch realm." The king's expression froze when he heard this, and he didn't dare speak another word. The Blood Moon ancient battlefield. Ning Chen, who'd been tossed in by Emperor Go, gazed at the empty wilderness in the surroundings, and a strange expression flashed in his eyes. Even though this place was very desolate, the spirit energy here was truly shocking, and it was indeed suitable for the production of immortal jades. Immortal jades were precious because once a cultivator attained the immortal realm, the density of spirit energy in the heavens and the earth was insufficient to support their cultivation, and they could only rely on immortal jades to continue cultivating. However, the conditions to produce immortal jades were extremely harsh. During the ancient times, only the 4 great immortal dimensions that commanded the mortal realm were capable of producing immortal jades. Looks like the Blood Moon ancient battlefield played an immeasurable role in allowing the primal demon realm to go against the 4 great immortal dimensions. Chapter 10:10. In the ancient desolate plains, an alternate dimension opened, and the Blood Moon ancient battlefield reappeared. The geniuses of the 100 races were sent in, and the competition of the 100 races officially began. It was the peak era of the past few hundred years. Almost all the young geniuses of the primordial demon realm had gathered to fight for the position of future general of the 100 races. They were also fighting for the legendary emperor-level treasure, Yin Yang Jade. In the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, the geniuses of the 100 races were sent in all directions. It was desolate, and the aura of time was obvious. Since the ancient era until now, the ancient battlefield had experienced countless battles of various sizes. Everywhere was a scene of devastation from the destruction of mountains and rivers. It was a shocking sight. Somewhere, Ning Chen, who had been forcefully sent into the ancient battlefield by Emperor Go, stood quietly in the wilderness. His gaze swept across the mountains and rivers in the distance. In this place, he did not know when he would encounter the geniuses of the 100 races. He could not be careless. Compared to the sky beyond heaven and the inner world, the young experts of the primordial demon realm were undoubtedly stronger, due to the time they had spent cultivating. It was rumored that among the geniuses of the 100 races this time, there were already experts who had entered the red dust realm. Their talent was astonishing, and it was very likely that they would become another emperor in the future. Emperors were rare. Even in the primordial demon realm, there were only a handful of them. It was extremely difficult to attain the emperor level, and no new emperor had appeared in the primordial demon realm for thousands of years. Legend had it that the primordial demon realm was affected by the Queen Mother's seal, and the origin energy of the world was gradually drying up. It was very difficult to support the emergence of a new emperor. This was also why the 100 races were so anxious to open the passage between the primordial demon realm and the sky beyond heaven. The resources of every world were limited, and the primordial demon realm and the sky beyond heaven were no exception. If the kings of the primordial demon realm wanted to enter the monarch realm, they had to obtain more resources. This was the reason for war. No matter when, resources were the most fundamental reason for invading. Under the blood moon, Ning Chen stood quietly for a moment before walking forward. The desolate wilderness was silent everywhere, as if it was an eternal land of death. After walking for hundreds of miles, there were no signs of life. Perhaps countless years ago, this was a land full of life. However, after so many wars, the Blood Moon ancient battlefield had lost all life. At the same time, the young geniuses all over the Blood Moon ancient battlefield began to observe the situation around them. The duration of the 100 Clans competition was 3 years. They had to familiarize themselves with the terrain as much as possible. Otherwise, it would be very disadvantageous for them in future battles. In the southern part of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, a woman in golden divine clothes stood there quietly. Her appearance was flawless, and her temperament was exceptionally outstanding. She was like a female war god that had descended from the divine world. She was peerlessly heroic, and no one dared to blaspheme her. The genius of the Scaled clan, Jean Lin, was the strongest of the younger generation. Even though she was a woman, she possessed a combat power that even the men of the Scaled clan could not compare to. As the royal daughter of the Scaled clan, Jean Lin was born with an absolute defense that other clans did not have. Among the younger generation, she rarely met a worthy opponent. Even the other royal bloodlines did not dare to provoke her easily. In the distance, the mountain ranges rose and fell. Under the moonlight, danger seemed to be everywhere. Jean Linger observed for a long time, then walked in the direction of the mountains. At the same time, in other directions of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, figures whose auras were not inferior to those of the Scale clan crown princess also began to move forward. Their terrifying auras deterred others from approaching them. Among the 3 directions, in the western part of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, a golden-haired man walked forward. His eyebrows were like swords, and his figure was tall and straight. He seemed to have an explosive power. Hong Yuan, the prince of the Golden Lion clan with the purest bloodline, was extremely powerful. It was said that he had defeated a few Red Dust Realm elders of the Golden Lion clan a few years ago, shocking the entire Golden Lion clan. In the northern part, under the eerie moonlight, a woman with a gentle aura walked forward. Her powerful bloodline power was restrained. Her beautiful eyes looked forward, and a strange light flashed in them. The 4 heirs of the royal bloodlines had been separated. However, in the eastern part, there was an expert whose aura was not inferior to the royal bloodlines. It seemed that the crown prince would meet a formidable opponent. In the eastern part of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, Ning Chen stopped in front of a mountain range. His eyes looked forward, and his expression became even more solemn. It had been at least a day since he had entered. However, the blood moon in the sky had not moved at all, and the day had not come. The land of extreme night? Ning Chen glanced at the blood moon in the sky. This was a strange small world. If there was no day, there would not be any normal creatures in this world. After taking a few steps forward, suddenly, an extremely chilling bloodline power came from afar. The pressure was shocking, and it was not inferior to any Red Dust Realm expert. Ning Chen squinted and stopped again. This was the bloodline of the royal bloodline. Far away, the crown prince also felt the powerful aura coming from the east. A murderous intent flashed in his cold eyes. It was not inferior to a royal bloodline expert. Since when did the 100 races have such an expert? Thinking of this, the crown prince stepped forward, and his speed became faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the night. Thousands of miles away, Ning Chen frowned when he felt the bloodline of the royal bloodline coming from afar. He didn't expect to meet someone with the royal bloodline so soon. It didn't mean that the princes with the royal bloodline were necessarily stronger than the descendants of other races. However, those with the royal bloodline who were able to come here were all true peerless geniuses. Coupled with the suppression of the bloodline, it was almost impossible for the descendants of other races to contend with them. In a few breaths, the powerful royal bloodline aura came closer and closer. It was not friendly. At such a sensitive time, there was no doubt that meeting would result in life and death. Ning Chen stopped for a moment, then walked into the mountains ahead. Not long after, a figure surrounded by cyan light appeared outside the mountains. It was the descendant of Emperor Stone, the current crown prince, who had appeared coldly. He stepped forward and his figure flashed. The crown prince felt the powerful aura in the mountains and rushed forward. In the mountains, a plain-clothed figure stood quietly. His aura was calm. Looking at the figure coming from afar, his expression did not change much. Although he did not want to meet the descendant of the royal bloodline so soon, since he had come, he would not purposely avoid him. For the time being, he could not defeat the old guys of the 100 races who had cultivated for countless years. However, there was no need for him to avoid their descendants. 1,000 feet away, cyan light shone. The crown prince appeared. When he saw the plain-clothed young man standing quietly in front of him, he stopped. They looked at each other coldly without any words. A cold wind blew, and the crown prince's figure moved. It was fast and shocking. The unparalleled royal bloodline gave off a frightening pressure. Before he made his move, a strange phenomenon had already appeared. A giant stone statue appeared behind the crown prince. The sky descended. Above the 9 heavens, wind and clouds rolled, and thunder surged. The cyan light swept over. The crown prince raised his hand and punched. The sky and earth shook violently, unable to bear the power of the royal bloodline. At this moment, the divine restriction shone brightly between the two of them. An unbreakable spatial barrier appeared and blocked the fatal attack. In the next moment, dim light shone everywhere within 1,000 feet. The yellow spring descended to welcome the crown prince. Chapter 10-11. In the mountains in the east of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, the crown prince and knowing destiny met. It had been 3 years, but the two top powerhouses had already started fighting. The crown prince, the descendant of the Stone Emperor, was the successor of the Stone Spirit clan. His bloodline was so powerful that it shocked people. As soon as he showed up, the young geniuses in the distance felt the pressure deep in their bones. The crown prince's body moved, and he arrived in an instant. Heavy punches gathered, and a mysterious phenomenon appeared. With a boom, when the airwaves were about to hit, a space barrier appeared between the two and blocked the crown prince's attack. The divine prohibition opened and sealed the world. A dim light rose up, trapping the descendant of the Stone Emperor. Prohibition. The crown prince looked at the shining dim light around him, and his murderous intent grew stronger. It's the first time we meet. Don't you think it's rude to attack as soon as you come? Ningchen looked at the man in front of him, and said calmly, "Death is the greatest respect for you." The crown prince raised his hand, and a green light rose from his body. The giant stone statue roared to the sky, and its giant fist smashed down on the space barrier. The divine restriction shook violently, and the surrounding mountains and rivers also started to sway. The descendant of the royal bloodline had a shocking cultivation. He had already stepped into the red dust realm. Ningchen stood outside the divine prohibition and looked at the crown prince. He waved his left hand and a divine guqin appeared. It was the white tiger divine weapon, and the king of hell appeared again. The strings of the guqin were plucked and waves surged. The earth-shattering power rolled up thousands of sand waves. The divine weapon of the white tiger deity showed its terrifying power. The sound of the guqin passed through the divine prohibition and entered the space of the underworld. The murderous intent of the underworld divine prohibition suddenly multiplied. Seeing this, the Thearka's son's expression turned serious. He turned around and avoided the waves of music. 7 rulings of the underworld, judgment of the third night. The strings of the guqin were plucked again, and the power increased several times. Ningchen shouted and used all his power. His white hair danced in the wind. The underworld divine weapon appeared, and the king of hell judged his life. The guqin played and the world shook. The space in the divine prohibition suddenly twisted violently. A world of death descended and swallowed the royal bloodline below. Forbidden heavenly baron. The crown prince narrowed his eyes and looked at the terrifying phenomenon in the sky. There was no panic on his face. He opened his hands slightly, and an incomparably powerful force erupted and shot up into the sky. The aftershock from the collision between the two sides was world-shocking, and it rumbled and shook the entire mountain range. Even with the divine restriction blocking it, it was still impossible to completely suppress it. Outside the divine prohibition, Ningchen stood there quietly with his white robe fluttering in the wind. However, his knowing destiny body stood there alone, as still as a mountain. The two who stood at the pinnacle of the younger generation displayed their peerless abilities from the very beginning. Their royal bloodlines and peerless foundations clashed against each other, each of them stunning the other. The sound of the guqin was relentless. The seal of the netherworld could not be broken in a short time. The crown prince focused all his attention on dealing with the guqin waves that kept attacking him. The murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. The two experts exchanged blows, and the situation was in a stalemate. The competition of martial arts and the clash of foundations, neither of them held back. One of them attacked and the other defended, displaying their abilities to the fullest. 2 hours passed. Outside the divine prohibition, Ningchen kept using the xianin to consume the crown prince's power. He never stepped into the divine prohibition. Inside the divine prohibition, the crown prince used all his cultivation to face the xianin after xianin. While resisting, he kept looking for the flaws of the divine prohibition. 1 day, 2 days. The battle was in a stalemate. The divine prohibition trapped the royal bloodline, and the entire mountain range turned into a forbidden area. The mountains shook, and rocks flew everywhere. On the 9th day, after trapping the crown prince for 9 whole days, the murderous intent finally appeared in Ningchen's eyes outside the divine prohibition. He waved his hand and put away the Yama's divine guqin. He clenched his right hand, and a black light flashed. The crazy bone was unsheathed. Inside the divine prohibition, seeing this, the crown prince's face darkened. He used the rest of his cultivation. Suddenly, the rock spirit's phantom appeared again. The 1,000-foot-tall stone giant stood upright, shocking everyone. Let me ask you something. Outside the divine prohibition, Ningchen held the crazy bone and walked forward step by step. Looking at the royal bloodline inside the divine prohibition, he said calmly, "If you die, will your emperor come here?" Hearing this, the crown prince's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He said coldly, "No, but you will never have the chance." Hearing the answer he wanted, Ningchen didn't ask any more questions. He walked into the divine prohibition step by step. The black blade shone brightly. The massacre was about to begin. "Young man, it's too early to kill a royal bloodline." At this moment, auspicious clouds gathered in the sky. A terrifying hand fell from the sky and forcefully grabbed the crown prince in the divine prohibition, sending him thousands of miles away. Below, Ningchen saw this and frowned. It was that emperor again. "Senior, I have never offended you. Why do you keep targeting me?" Ningchen looked at the rolling auspicious clouds in the sky, cupped his fists and asked politely, "Did I? I don't remember. 3 years is too early. Young man, we will meet again in the future." From the auspicious clouds in the sky, a majestic voice sounded. It was hard to tell whether it was a man or a woman. After speaking, the auspicious clouds in the sky dissipated and calmness returned. Ningchen frowned again. What was the emperor's intention? Outside the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, in the sky above the Taihuang ancient plains, the 4 kings looked at Emperor Go's actions, but no one dared to question him. The emperor of the sorcerer tribe had always been mysterious. However, an emperor would always be an emperor. No one dared to go against him. In the eastern part of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, a white-clothed figure stopped in the mountains. After a long time, she turned around and continued walking forward. It was a pity that she didn't get rid of the royal bloodline. However, with the emperor's intervention, this person was destined to live. The royal bloodline of the 100 clans lived up to its name. That royal bloodline was probably at the edge of the Red Dust realm. The 4th realm was a realm that martial artists dreamed of. Once one stepped into it, they would become immortals in the Red Dust realm. In the mountains, the white-clothed figure gradually walked away. Her aura returned to normal, and no one could tell that she had just gone through a great battle. In the northern part of the Blood Rain ancient battlefield, a beautiful woman with a calm aura stood quietly. Her eyes were looking into the distance as a strange light flashed through them. Who was that young man? He actually made the emperor of her tribe look at him in a different light. Tian Exine. At this moment, a dignified voice resounded in the heavens and the earth. "Emperor." The woman bowed respectfully and said, "Go to the east and kill that young man." Emperor Go's voice resounded once more. When Tian Exine heard this, her expression turned serious and she said, "Why?" "There's no reason." Emperor Go's voice resounded in the heavens and the earth. He said calmly, If he's alive, he'll be the biggest obstacle to your final victory. So he can't be left alive. I can't kill him. Tian Xian shook her head lightly and said, Emperor should be able to sense that the young man's strength is unfathomable. His foundation is even more shocking. If you want to kill him, you'll need at least the strength of a king realm expert. Since you don't have the confidence to kill him, then form an alliance with him. Emperor Go's voice resounded and said, For imperial bloodlines and 12 king bloodlines. In the future, someone will definitely choose to join forces. Making a decision in advance is the best choice. When Tian Xian heard this, a strange light arose in her beautiful eyes once more. After a short moment, she said, What if his objective is yin yang, not jade? Chapter 10-12. On the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, the blood-red moon shone brightly. Moonlight fell on the ground, making people shudder. Unknowingly, 3 months had passed. Countless battles had occurred in the ancient battlefield. Everywhere was a mess. The 4 royal bloodlines ruled over the 4 sides of the ancient battlefield. No one could defeat them. The prodigies of the 100 races fought back fiercely. However, the absolute difference in strength made everyone feel powerless. Before the threat of death, the prodigies of the 100 races chose to submit. The 4 strongest powers of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield gradually formed. The 4 sovereigns were the titles the prodigies of the 100 races gave to the 4 heirs of the royal bloodline. The Prince Shirling of the east, the Golden Lion Hong Yuan of the west, the Saintess of the Sorcerer tribe of the north, Tian Xian of the Sorcerer tribe of the south, and Jin Lin, of the Scale tribe of the south. They were the strongest royal bloodline in the world, allowing the 4 heirs of the royal bloodline to suppress the prodigies of the 100 races and dominate the ancient battlefield. However, below the 4 emperors, there were also outstanding prodigies who didn't choose to submit. They relied on their own strength to create a world for themselves. Among them, Xiao Xiao from the Fox tribe, Gu Xian from the ancient city of Jiuyang, Yuan Tian from the Ape tribe, and Leopard Lady from the Leopard tribe stood out among the 100 races with their strength. They gradually gained their own fame and followers. In 3 months, celestial jades appeared one after another in the ancient battlefield. Everyone fought fiercely and gained something. The 4 strongest royal bloodlines each guarded their own side of the ancient battlefield. They tacitly agreed to the current situation and didn't choose to fight with the other royal bloodlines. The 4 royal bloodlines all knew that there was still a long time before the 3-year period of the 100 races competition. It was too early to start a war now. The 4 emperors were restrained. A slight move in one part would affect the whole situation. Coupled with the similarly powerful royal prodigies, everyone tacitly chose to avoid large-scale battles. At the same time, a plain-clothed figure walked forward in the east of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield. He hadn't fought in the past 3 months. Very few people knew him. The blood moon sprinkled down, and there were ruins everywhere. Ning Chen walked on the wasteland, searching for celestial jades while looking for Dong Yu and Xia Ji. He didn't know if the 2 girls would arrive in the end. However, as long as there was a chance, he would continue to search. He had already promised the 2 girls' mothers to take good care of them in this 100 races competition. As a man, how could he break his promise so easily? However, after searching for 3 months, there was still no news of the 2 girls. It was as if Dong Yu and Xia Ji had never appeared in the ancient battlefield. The worry in Ning Chen's heart became more and more intense, and his speed became faster and faster. Since he couldn't find any traces of the 2 girls here, he would go somewhere else. In the south, on top of a mountain peak, Jin Lin, who was dressed in a golden divine robe, stood quietly. Her eyes looked forward, as clear as autumn water. In the distance, a man dressed in dark red swordsmanship walked over. His face was handsome and slightly pale, but his temperament was extraordinary. The ancient sword in his hand was hidden, but the sword pressure was oppressive. Behind Jin Lin, the various followers of the supreme geniuses from the major clans all stiffened when they saw the figure walking down the mountain. This person didn't come with good intentions. At the foot of the mountain, Gu Xian stopped in his tracks. With a stomp of his foot, His figure rose from the ground and shot straight into the sky. Guxian. In front of the mountain peak, Jinlin looked at the swordsman who had risen from the ground. A strange look flashed in her beautiful eyes. The young master of the ancient city of Juyang. This person had left a deep impression on her because his sword was too unique. Solitary yin couldn't be born, and solitary yang couldn't grow. This was the law of heaven. However, there were exceptions to everything. Extreme yin gave birth to yang, and extreme yang gave birth to yin. This young master of the ancient city of Juyang clearly had the body of a man, but his body was extremely yin and abnormally powerful. Brother Guxian, what brings you here? Jinlin asked calmly. Rumor has it that the Scaled clan's defense is the best in the world. I am here to seek your guidance, Guxian said softly as he looked at the crown princess of the Scaled clan in front of him. Hearing this, Jinlin's expression turned serious. She said, Brother Guxian should know what it means for us to fight. I think that the king of Juyang wouldn't want to see us fight. My father is my father, and I am me. Jinlin, please. As soon as he finished speaking, the grand moon sword in Guxian's hand moved. The sound of the sword resonated through the sky. The divine weapon was about to be unleashed, and the sky changed color. Endless cold air spread. The space froze, and frost filled the sky. All of you step back. Seeing that the battle was unavoidable, Jinlin's expression turned cold. She raised her slender hand, and golden light shone. Behind them, the prodigies of the various clans quickly retreated, leaving space for the two of them. Please. As soon as he finished speaking, the grand moon sword was unleashed. The surging sword power drew a glaring blood mark in the sky and slashed down. Seeing this, Jinlin raised her slender hand. Dazzling golden light rose, and she received the grand moon sword. The first move of the clash between the two of them was a clash of flesh and blood against a peerless divine weapon. The Scaled clan's indestructible protection was indestructible. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing could be heard, and the aftershock spread out rapidly. Peerless sword, clear sky. Before the first move could be made, Guxian stepped in the air and retreated 10 feet. The grand moon sword spun, and a circular sword aura appeared. The sword pressure was majestic, and it shocked the prodigies of the various clans. In the next moment, streaks of sword radiance shot out from the sword aura. The space shook, and glaring cracks appeared. A chilly wind howled, and ice covered 1,000 miles. As the sword attack approached, Jinlin's figure flashed and dodged the streaks of sword radiance. In the sky, after the streaks of sword radiance, a dark red flowing light flashed past. Guxian had arrived, and the grand moon sword was deadly. With a loud boom, the sword pierced through Guxian's heart meridian. The absolute defense and the peerless divine weapon clashed head-on. The intense friction was ear-piercing. The grand moon sword spun rapidly, trying to break through the Scaled clan's indestructible protection. However, the scaled armor was indestructible, and the peerless divine weapon could not penetrate it. Back off. Jinlin's expression darkened. She gathered her essence energy, and slammed her palm heavily on Guxian's chest. A pool of blood splattered and dyed the longsword red. Guxian flew back 10 feet, and he was severely injured for the first time. After gaining the upper hand in one move, Jinlin did not hesitate. Her figure flashed, and she moved forward. With the support of the scaled armor, the Scaled clan's crown princess only attacked and did not defend. Her moves were swift and fierce, like a violent storm. The situation had changed, and young Master Juyang was in danger. The grand moon sword shone brightly, but it missed by a hair's breadth each time. It could not break through the scaled armor's defense. Outside the battle, the geniuses of the 100 tribes watched the battle in front with shock. This swordsman was indeed extraordinary, but he was still inferior to Jinlin, who had the royal bloodline. 3 moves of the grand moon. The situation was suppressed, but Guxian's smile became even more dazzling. His palm slashed across the grand moon sword, and blood flowed down, dyeing the divine sword red. 1 sword in 100 years. With the terminating move, the surrounding sky changed color. A black moon appeared in the sky. With 2 moons in the sky, time and space were in chaos. In the dark moon, Gu Xian's sword spun for 100 years, shocking the heavens. On the mountain peak, Jin Lin Er's expression turned serious. She did not dare to be careless. She opened and closed her hands, and the scaled clan's true form appeared for the first time. Chapter 10:13. On a mountain peak in the south of the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, Gu Xian came to challenge the four emperors with his sword. The Grand Moon three swords appeared for the first time, shocking the world. Wherever the sword radiance went, the primordial Yin shook the sky. The ancient lost techniques appeared. Jin Lin Er's expression turned serious. She raised her hand and condensed her primordial Yin, revealing her true form. There were scales in the North Sea called the Dragon Leviathan. It was said to be the descendant of the dragon race and the Kuan Peng. Its bloodline was strong and not inferior to its ancestors. With the body of a dragon and the wings of a Kuan, it had the perfect bloodline of a divine beast. When its true form appeared, the world within 1,000 miles suddenly sank. Waves surged and flooded the 9 heavens. The Grand Moon sword fell. The dragon Leviathan spread its wings and attacked the ancient taboo martial arts. The two sides clashed. At that moment, the aftershock rushed to the sky and shocked the gods. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and thunder rumbled. Heavy rain poured down and covered the entire battlefield. In the heavy rain, 2 streaks of flowing light, one red and one gold, kept crossing each other. Both sides did not hold back. The opponent was too strong and did not allow them to hold back. Outside the battlefield, the geniuses of the 100 races looked at the shocking battle in front of them and were shocked. They all knew how strong Jin Lin Er was. As a member of the Dragon Leviathan royal family, the power of her bloodline was not something other races could compare to. However, the swordsman in front of them could actually fight Jin Lin Er to a standstill. It was unbelievable. However, the scaled race was known for their absolute defense. If this person could not break Jin Lin Er's golden armor, he would definitely lose this battle. Boom! In the 9 heavens, lightning streaked across the void and lit up the dark ancient battlefield. Below, the battle between the two had reached its climax. Gu Xian's primordial Yin battle spirit was at its peak. The Grand Moon sword vibrated and cut through layers of barriers, trying to break through the scaled race's defense. The divine sword and the armor clashed again and again. The same position, the same result. Grand Moon 3 styles, primordial spirit thought. After exchanging 100 moves, Gu Xian made up his mind. He waved his sword and condensed his primordial Yin blood. In the brilliant blood rain, a blood-red sword radiance appeared. The extreme of the sword, the extreme yang gave birth to Yin. The sword radiance was brilliant. When the sword was formed, the world was dyed red. The sword of the primordial spirit was formless. With the help of the moon, the blood-red light on the sword became even more glaring. Jin Lin Er did not dare to be careless. She opened and closed her hands, and the phantom of the dragon and Leviathan roared toward the sky. Golden light shone brightly, and the power of the royal bloodline rose rapidly. Between heaven and earth, heavy rain continued to gather, forming a huge tornado vortex, overturning rain into waves. The royal family's ultimate technique and the lunar forbidden technique clashed. In the intense collision, Gu Xian's body was pushed back a few steps. Blood flowed from the hand that held the sword. In the rapidly dissipating waves, Jin Lin Er's figure appeared. She looked fine, but a clear sword mark had appeared on her golden scale divine robe in front of her chest. The indestructible protection was still indestructible. However, compared to before, this time, the indestructible armor of the scaled clan was cracked by the divine sword for the first time. When Gu Xian saw this, his eyes narrowed. He looked at the sword wound in front of the former's chest and forcefully suppressed the injuries in his body. He took a step forward and instantly moved forward. Unforgivable. Jin Lin Er's eyes flashed coldly when her divine clothes were injured. Instead of retreating, she moved forward to meet the sword. Her slender hand shook the divine weapon, and the clanging sound was unusually ear-piercing. With the absolute defense, Jin Lin Er no longer had any defensive stance. Her attacks were fierce and each of them was fatal. The difference in bloodline was clear. Facing the angry scaled clan queen, Gu Xian was at a disadvantage. Her slender hand landed on his body, and a glaring waterfall of blood flowed out. Kaboom! Thunder roared in the sky. On Gu Xian's body, blood mixed with rain dripped down. At this point in the battle, the injuries were gradually accumulating. Even with the extreme body, it was gradually difficult for him to hold on. The swordsman was in danger, but the fighting spirit of a challenger was not shaken at all. Gu Xian forcefully gathered the last of his vital essence and pointed at the sword. Blood dyed the lunar divine sword red. Ultimate technique of lunar, true yang sword. When the ultimate technique appeared, the heavens and the earth shook. On the divine sword, boundless yin qi spread rapidly. In the extremely cold yin qi, a golden sword light appeared. Extreme yang gave birth to yin, and extreme yin eventually returned to yang. The sword returned to nature shocked the heavens and the earth. The 3-foot sword edge could kill gods. Extreme yin gave birth to yang, shocking all living things. On the collapsed mountain peak, Jin Lin looked at the golden yang sword in the extreme yin domain with a serious expression. 8 void heavenly strike. The extreme sword was about to arrive. Jin Lin did not dare to be careless. She raised both of her hands. In the golden brilliance, 8 huge storm vortexes appeared between the heavens and the earth. The power was shocking, shocking the sun and the moon. After the blade light, the plain-clothed figure flew out with the severely injured Zhu Yang young master. He looked coldly at the scaled clan queen and said calmly, "That's all for today. Goodbye." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningchen took a step forward and left the battlefield with Gu Xian. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.